Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to PlayOnSports.com's Georgia High School Association Friday night game of the week. Tonight we come to you from the city of Atlanta, where the South Atlanta Hornets visit the Grady Gray Knights in a matchup of two teams from Region 6 4A and Region B of the, it's a two bracket region, if you will, and senior night here for the Grady Gray Knights. This is Kevin Beck along with Chris King, our producer Jason, and Kenny on the camera on an absolutely gorgeous night. The final night of October football in Georgia High School Association ball should be a good one. And Chris, you've got a couple of teams here right now that have to get into conversation right now. Looks like the South Atlanta Hornets coming in at 3-4. They just want to right the ship and get to 500. But the Grady Gray Knights, they want to be in the conversation going into November.
Yeah, Grady holding a tie top of Region 6 4A Division B with a 3-0 record. And South Atlanta 0-3 in the region. They have been eliminated from postseason play. But one of the things that South Atlanta wants to do is they definitely want to try to finish 500. Last season they finished 5-5 for the first time in a long time. And I'm pretty sure their goal is to at least try to finish 500 or better. On the other hand, Grady 3-0 in the region, 6-1 overall, having a great season. Trying to hold serve, so to speak, to set up a big-time matchup next Saturday night against Carver of Atlanta. Speaking of Carver of Atlanta, they're playing Washington tonight. Banneker's playing Therrell. Carver of Atlanta sits at 3-0 along with Grady. And Washington sits at 2-1. Banneker 1-2, 0-3 for South Atlanta, 0-3 for Therrell.
And Chris, we are just ready, set to go, and Grady won the toss. They will receive, and we're underway at senior night here at Henderson Field at Grady Stadium. And number 31 on the receiving end is going to be Shamari Gervin, the running back, the senior, here on senior night. And that's where Grady will go to work at their own 36-yard line. First down and 10. Great to have you with us on an absolutely gorgeous night for football in the city of Atlanta. And with the weather forecast coming in this weekend, Chris, this is probably the last pleasant night of weather we're going to have heading into the real autumn and pre-winter here in Atlanta. So a great night for senior night here with a good crowd on hand.
Well, pleasant, that's relative because that's in the eye of the beholder, because I kind of think the fall weather is going to be phenomenal. I think we're going to have a beautiful time. A little seeing your breath is part of football.
First play is going to be a pass to the outside, looking for Deshaun Benton, and they're going to say that is caught.
And Kevin Benton did a good job because that ball was underthrown. He kind of contorted his body back and really helped out his quarterback for the big first down.
And right out of the gate, they go to the air, and inside South Atlanta territory they go. The big, tall quarterback for the Grady Gray Knights, Kevon Taylor, another senior there, loaded with senior talent. And Taylor wants to go back to the air again. Same play, and that's going to be underthrown. Looking for a flag on the near side. Looked like Deshaun Benton again. Thought maybe the defender had a handful of shirt tail there, Chris.
Yeah,
but that's going to be incomplete. Second down and 10.
Jamario Washington out there on the coverage. And he may have, as you said, he may have had a little bit of contact out there. We'll see what the officials say.
Grady Gray Knights come in averaging 27 points a game. And South Atlanta, no slouches on the offensive side either, Chris. 26 points a game, the average for the South Atlanta Hornets. And Chris, a big difference in the student bodies of these two schools. We're going to see an awful lot of guys going both ways, and that's going to be a tall task here for South Atlanta against a very powerful Grady team. Taylor once again to the air, looking to the outside, and that's going to be over the outstretched hands of Deshaun Benton. So 3 straight pass plays right out of the gate for the Gray Knights.
And Kevin, talking to the coach of the Gray Knights, Ronnie Millen, before the game, he said that they're going to mix it up a little bit. They're going to try to run a little bit. They like to pass the ball, and they feel like they can take advantage of a defense on the South Atlanta side that may be just a little bit undersized.
And Chris, I think if this thing is close when it gets to the fourth quarter, stamina is going to be the question mark. Now they go to the ground, and a big hole off the right side for Shamari Gervin, and he will be close to a first down, probably a couple yards short, just outside the 35-yard line to the 36, and it'll bring up a fourth down and short, maybe 2 for the Gray Knights, and they go right to the huddle. Looks like they're not even going to question whether or not to go for it.
Well, like I said, they've got the superior size on the offensive line, and from here it looks like sort of a smaller defensive setup for South Atlanta. Grady with a larger size, so going for it here is probably going to be advantage home team.
Only one running play so far for the Knights. They're going to go option on the inside, and that will be good enough for the first down. Looks like Mark Reeves on the carry. The fullback has enough for the first down to the 33-yard line of South Atlanta. First possession of the football game here at Grady Stadium in the beautiful, right dead smack in the center of Atlanta. Happy to have you with us here on PlayOnSports.com. Georgia High School Association football coming to you from the great state of Georgia and the capital city. First down and 10 from the 33-yard line. Taylor, now they're going to go back to the ground this time and make some pretty good yardage there. Looks like number 31 back on the carry, Shamari Gervin, gets the call. He'll be about 2 yards short of a first down.
Kevin, pretty good positive play there on first down. When you're talking about the interior offensive line for the Grady Knights, the guy who leads it is Davis Willingham. He's number 60, a big kid, senior. He's going to play on the offensive line and play a little bit on the defensive line for Grady as well.
Call it second down and 3 just outside the 25-yard line. All-out blitz coming from South Atlanta. And, Chris, that was a great call there on defense. Really stuffed that run. They went right back to the middle. Looks like they're going to lose 1 or 2. And it'll bring up third down and 3. That was an all-out blitz, Chris. They sent everybody and did a nice job there. The secondary came. There was a completely empty backfield in the defensive secondary, and they were right on top of that run up the middle. Did what they needed to do. They've got to stop this drive here because Grady, as we said, they come in the favorite at 6-1. Again, they come with a full blitz up the middle, but they go outside this time with the toss. Isaiah Jenkins, and he will turn the corner, stay inbounds, and have enough for a Gray Knight first down. So they go back to the all-out blitz in the middle. Grady sniffs it out, and the toss outside is good enough to move the chains. First down at the 22-yard line for the Gray Knights. First possession of the football game. The Knights won the toss and received. And we're going to have a timeout, South Atlanta, with 9:12 to go in the first quarter, just underway here.
And, Kevin, we saw how Grady made the adjustment. You made the point that the previous play, all out up the middle for South Atlanta, trying to do everything they can to stop Grady up the middle. So what do the Gray Knights do? The next play, toss sweep to the outside. They kind of take advantage of the, aggressiveness that South Atlanta showed up the middle. Got one of their speedsters out to the outside and got a big gain and a good first down.
And, Chris, you touched on it in the open. They're going to have to go all out and take some risks against Grady. They are, you don't want to say outmatched, but you've got two teams in different stratas of their season and their programs. Grady looking for some postseason action and really thinks that they have a chance to get somewhere in the postseason, where Atlanta, they really just want to go 500 a couple of consecutive years and trend positively for their football program.
Yeah, they are. They don't have a whole lot of seniors on their ball club. A small team as well. And you're talking about Grady. Well, I'll speak on that point after this particular play.
Out of the first down, or timeout is first down, and here comes South Atlanta again, going with that aggressive stance, trying to blitz the gaps there. That is going to be a free 5 for the Gray Knights, and that is one thing they cannot afford, Chris. It is going to be a very risky proposition for them all night long, but they cannot afford to make mistakes like that and give away the free 5.
Yeah, definitely on that play. What I was going to say is Grady trying to stay in contention for one of the top 2 spots in the B subdivision. And we talked about 2 subdivisions, and again, I will continue my point.
Again, they show blitz in the gaps, and again, Chris, this is going to be a first down on 2 5-yard offside penalties by South Atlanta. And I can appreciate the aggressive, eager nature of the defense. However, that is a free series, if you will. They move the chains without snapping the football, and that is just not going to work for South Atlanta. It'll be first down and 10 for the Gray Knights at the South Atlanta 12. On the ground another time. They go left side this time. Ball's out! And it is going to be recovered by South Atlanta. What a turn of events here. South Atlanta gets a huge break as the fumble bounces toward the goal line. It is going to be South Atlanta football. How about that?
Kevin, I believe the man who recovered that ball was Leon Thomas for South Atlanta, and
I think it was Isaiah Jenkins on the carry, Chris. It looked like he had a little room there. He got popped and the ball squirted forward, and South Atlanta pounces on it, and they're going to say it bounced into the end zone, so a touchback. And how about that for a big break? We talk risk reward, and right there just a huge stroke of luck, if you will. And South Atlanta goes on offense and thwarts the opening drive by Grady. First down and 10 from the 20, first offensive set. And they're going to go on the ground left side. Jamario Washington, the senior quarterback for South Atlanta. And that's going to be good for just a couple on the carry. They've got the little scat back in there, Chris. DeAndre Jackson.
And Kevin, interesting how things kind of played themselves out. The two back-to-back offside penalties, as it turns out, they may have helped South Atlanta, because had they not had given up the 10 yards, the fumble would have probably given South Atlanta first down on about the 2 or 3 yard line.
Excellent point.
Instead, they get out to the 20, because so you definitely don't want to say penalties helped you, but they didn't hurt that time.
Second down and 7. Thomas rolls. Now he wants to fire over the middle, and he's got a man complete. And that is going to be DeAndre Jackson dragging tacklers to the 45-yard line. And that's a nice chunk of yardage for South Atlanta to be first down and 10 at the 45.
Nice rollout by the quarterback. Squared his shoulders and found his receiver coming across the middle.
And, Chris, as you said, not a whole lot of senior talent out there on the South Atlanta side, but Jamario Washington, the quarterback, is one of them. And a lot of these guys will be going both ways, so stamina will play a big part in this. We'll see how these guys hold up toward the fourth quarter of this thing. Washington in the shotgun, and he's going to keep it on the option with room across midfield, dancing through the hole, and he's going to sprint down the far sideline. Can Washington get there? He will, and just like that, touchdown. South Atlanta jumps on top. Jamario Washington taking the team on his shoulders, and that has stunned the home crowd here at Grady on senior night.
Kevin, what a fickle game this is.
And chalk it up, partner. Points off turnovers, 80-yard drive, 3 plays. South Atlanta goes on top, courtesy of Jamario Washington. Up the middle, nobody got a hand on him. Chris, I think he would have made it there in flag football.
Ms. Jose Camacho in for the PAT.
A little trouble with the snap. Camacho's kick is up, and it is good. So chalk that up under didn't see that coming. South Atlanta goes on top with 7:46 to play in the first quarter, and an absolutely stunned Grady sideline doesn't know what to think.
Well, you know, that's why you play the game. I spoke with Coach Millen for Grady before the game, and I asked him, I said, you know, what worries you about this South Atlanta team? He says that given that they play hard, he said they're going to come and play every down hard, 48 minutes of football. They came just an eyelash away from defeating the Washington ball club, who currently sits at 6-1, if not for a couple of what they like to call, you know, prayer answering plays at the end of the ball game. This South Atlanta team could be 4-3 and 1-2 in the region. So,
and here we are, Chris. South Atlanta jumps on top of Grady, 55 yards for Jamario Washington. And the South Atlanta Hornets have made a statement. They are here to play, and they are not going to back down to anyone. Fielded at the 14-yard line on the kick, right up the middle, out to the 41-yard line. Very nice job on the return by looks like number 31 again on the carry.
And Kevin, we've used this term so many times this season, opportunistic defense. South Atlanta, they were fortunate. They got the ball. Their defense were given an opportunity to give the ball back to their offense, and they wasted no time going right down that field rapidly and putting 7 points on this football scoreboard.
21-yard return by Shamari Gervin puts Grady in excellent field position to start their second possession. Now they trail by 7. They go inside handoff. And again, they go back to Gervin. And that will be second down and 2 coming up, just shy of the 50-yard line, about the 49.
Kevin, it looks like that Grady should have success running the football between the tackles, at least early on it looks that way.
Kevon Taylor, the senior quarterback, trying to get his team back in this. The senior night crowd kind of sitting on their hands after that 55-yard run by Washington. They go back to the ground looking for the outside, dancing around, breaking tackles, but stepping out of bounds is Hakeem Todd. First time we've seen Todd touch the football here tonight. And that'll be good enough for a first down inside South Atlanta territory to the 42-yard line. And Chris, looks like Kevon Taylor's got a nice little set of weapons back there, not only in the backfield to hand to, but a couple of big receivers out there. You see number 15. He's a good-looking receiver out there, senior Marquavius Henry.
Yeah, adding to that is a very, very experienced and big offensive line.
And again, here comes South Atlanta with that aggressive shoot-the-gap blitz defensive scheme. And that is very risky, Chris. We saw them give up a first down on 2 consecutive penalties, and this time they're going to give up 5, and that'll march the ball inside the 40.
I'll give them 1. 2, I don't know, 3. You got to have a little discipline over there, guys. You got to have a little discipline because let's face it, they were fortunate to get that fumble last time, but you can't rely on fumbles and breaks as South Atlanta got that last time.
On first down and 5, they go near side on the give. Nice job there. Should be good enough for a first down for Grady.
Pretty good tackle that time by Jamario Washington.
Jonathan Golson, the other senior running back. The running backs aren't very big, Chris, but they've got that kind of scat back Maurice Jones-Drew stature. If they can hit the holes there and kind of hide behind those offensive linemen.
Some of the toughest guys to tackle are those guys that are short and have that low center of gravity.
So Taylor and the Gray Knights go back to work. First down and 10 inside the 30. And they go option. Taylor elects to keep it, and nothing happening there. A great job on defense of sniffing that out. Looked like Jonathan Range, the big defensive end in there for the stuff. He's going to lose 2 on the play. Second down and 12.
And Kevin, there's no secret. South Atlanta's going to take chances. If it costs them, it looks like if it costs them 5 yards, fine. If it doesn't, fine. They're going to take chances. Grady has determined they're going to run up the middle, and if South Atlanta can put 7 or 8 or 9 in the box, they look like they feel like they can stop the Gray Knight offense.
Again, they show all-out blitz, and they do come this time. Play action by Taylor, and he's in trouble back at the 39, and that is going to be a sack. Forward progress will be, or I should say rearward progress, going to be back toward the 39-yard line. So 2 big defensive plays by South Atlanta, Chris, and they have come in here and shown they are not intimidated by this Grady Gray Knight powerhouse team.
There's about 4 or 5 white jerseys in there led by number 9, Jarvis Chapman. And this is a pretty big offensive play here for Grady. They have to turn the ball back over to South Atlanta. South Atlanta gets the football with the lead early on in this game.
We're going to call it third down and 20. Taylor has a 4 wide out set now, single setback. Here's Taylor to throw with time over the middle looking, and that's caught at the 30. But that is not going to be enough for a first down for the Gray Knights. Deshaun Benton on the receiving end. Nice throw there by Kevon Taylor. And it'll bring up a 4th down, and we'll call it 5, maybe 6. Now call it 6 from the 25.
But it may have given Grady enough yardage to consider going for it, Kevin.
And, Chris, they do send Taylor right back into that huddle. Looks like he is ready to go with the play, and they are not backing down. Here come Grady now. Big test for them. Second 4th down that they have faced here tonight early. We're 4 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the first quarter. South Atlanta on top. Taylor to throw. Looking quickly to the near side. Fade pattern is going to be over the outstretched hands of Deshaun Benton. And the ball will go over on down. So South Atlanta hold again. And Grady come up empty.
And Grady getting really aggressive, maybe Kevin a little bit too aggressive. It looks like there's no secret when they're going to throw the ball. Most of their tap pass attempts are going to be to the outside because it looks like they feel like they have an advantage height-wise, receiver versus defensive back. But that time it was a nice throw. It had a lot of air under it, but just a little bit overthrown. And good job by South Atlanta's defense. They get the ball back.
So a big confidence builder by that South Atlanta defense again. First time they get the fumble. Second time they get the turnover on downs. And they go back to work on the ground this time on first down and 10 from the 25. Going to use a little scat back again. Number 5 out there, the ball carrier. That's DeAndre Jackson.
Looks like Chaz Cooper, one of the senior linebackers, in on that tackle for Grady.
So Jamario Washington, the senior QB, a 55-yard touchdown run, last possession for South Atlanta to give them the lead. as the clock goes under 4 minutes to play in the first quarter. From Henderson Field at Grady Stadium, Georgia High School Association. And right now, early on, we have ourselves a stunner. Here's Washington with the roll. In trouble. Now looking back across the field, throws against the grain, a dangerous pass, and that was nearly intercepted, Chris. That is ill-advised. And you got to think that Hakeem Todd would like to have that one back. He saw it the whole way, went right through his hands, but that was telegraphed by Washington. They dodged a huge bullet that time.
Just very fortunate for the South Atlanta defense. Hakeem Todd, the only thing I can say is he may have started running before he actually had possession of the football, because that ball was just as much Todd's as it was the receiver. Very fortunate break for the South Atlanta offense.
Not only was it back against the grain, but it didn't have anything on it at all. That was just a ball up for grabs by Washington. 3rd down and 7 for South Atlanta at their own 27. Washington to throw on play action. Has a man over the middle, caught and knocked away. A great job on defense. Chris Gardner had it, but it was knocked away, and it'll be incomplete. 4th down and 7. And South Atlanta will send out the punting unit for the first time here tonight. So Washington dodges a bullet there, Chris, and then his receiver lets him down. So a couple of opportunities missed there for both sides.
It looked like it was Hakeem Todd who stepped back in, was not able to make the interception, but did make the defensive play that forced South Atlanta to punt the football.
Jose Camacho in to do the punting duties. He will stand at his own 16-yard line. Gets a good high knuckler up. And a fair catch is called for and made at the 40-yard line, and that is where they will go to work. Amir Smith with a nice job on the fair catch there. And back on offense go the Grady Gray Knights with good field position, Chris. They have started last 3 possessions in pretty good field possession around their own 40-yard line all 3 times.
Well, Kevin, so far it's the big plays of South Atlanta, the big touchdown run by the quarterback, versus the ball control of the Grady Gray Knights. But what has happened is the ball control has come to a halt 2 times for Grady, because let's face it, they've moved the football down the field pretty impressively. Just when they get down there near that red zone, they just haven't been able to make it happen so far.
Taylor back to work under center. Once again, South Atlanta show all-out blitz. Keep it on the ground this time for Grady, and nothing happening there. Chris Gardner stuffs that run. They gave it to the scat back one more time. They went back to number 31, Shamari Gervin, and he's going to lose about half a yard. Chris, good job on defense there.
Yeah, Gardner doing a really good job. He is that prototypical linebacker that fills the gaps. He's made about 4 or 5 tackles already, and those tackles have been made when he meets the ball carrier right there at the line, and that's exactly what you want your inside linebackers to do.
And he made the tackle, Chris. He didn't try to bump him or knock him down. He wrapped him up and did what you want your guy to do on a one-on-one situation. Keep it on the ground this time.
Gardner again.
And Hakeem Todd gets the carry. Not much happening there. Maybe 2. It'll bring 3rd down and 8 to the Grady offense.
Tavarius Thomas was in on the tackle with Chris Gardner, but it was Gardner there making that initial hit.
And, Chris, we talked a lot about the South Atlanta guys going both ways. We're seeing a lot of that already from Grady, and they have got a significantly larger roster. But right now we've seen Hakeem Todd make a couple of big plays on defense. We've seen him carry the ball a couple of times as well. So this should be very interesting when we get down to late 3rd quarter, 4th quarter activity to see how these guys hold up stamina-wise. Big play here, 3rd down and 8 from the 42. Taylor under center. Thinking play action. Now he's going to run to the sideline and fire incomplete. Looking for Deshaun Benton over there. Another 4th down will be faced by the Grady Gray Knights, and it looks like this time they will trot out the punting unit, Chris. Just too far back to think about going for it.
And Kevin, there's no secret. South Atlanta's defense is pinning their ears back, and they are coming. And so far they've been successful. Jonathan Range was a player for South Atlanta that put the pressure on Grady's quarterback. And again, Grady's offense stalls, and South Atlanta's going to get the ball back.
And, Chris, it looks like it's going to be all-out blitz, full-court press for South Atlanta until Grady makes an adjustment. And they will have to give the ball up. The ball bounces back to the punter, able to get off a knuckler, and that is just going to take a great Grady bounce inside the 20, down to the 15, and now going to be fielded. An ill-advised pickup of the football by DeAndre Jackson.
He had about 4 or 5 dark jerseys standing in front of him. First of all, there were 10 on the line for South Atlanta. A couple of them backed up. The snap rolled to the punter, so I'm not sure. That play was kind of strange. And then on top of all that, with all those dark jerseys, he said, I'll give it a try.
Well, Zach Carter was very fortunate that that football bounced straight towards him because it bounced about 3 times before it got to him. And a football very rarely bounces in a straight line. It did for Carter, and he was lucky enough to get that punt away. So back on offense go the South Atlanta Hornets. They lead 7-0 inside a minute 40 to play in the first quarter. Jamario Washington, the star so far for the Hornets, with that 55-yard touchdown run. This time they go direct snap to Chris Gardner. Little wildcat look. And he's going to pick up maybe 1 out to the 25-yard line. So they slide Washington out of the formation and run a direct snap to Chris Gardner.
Looked like it was Keenan Marr on the tackle that time for Grady.
2nd down and 9 from the 25. Clock approaching 1 minute to play in the rapidly moving first quarter. And South Atlanta has really set these Grady fans on their hands here on senior night. They haven't had much to cheer about at all. Kind of like a heavyweight prize fight. South Atlanta has knocked Grady down once. Here's Washington rolling far side against his body. Now looking back, and he is in trouble, and he will go down. Back at the 12-yard line, Chris. Too many times to the well on the rollout. And Grady sniffs it out, and that's a huge loss back inside the 15-yard line to about the 14 now.
Yeah, Keenan Marr on the tackle again, with this time with Jamal Hurd helping him out. And Kevin, as you said, you can only go to the well so many times, and Grady sniffed that one out.
So we're going to call that 3rd down and 20, and South Atlanta can ill afford to put themselves against the chains like this deep in their own territory. Neither team really blessed with an outstanding special teams program as far as punters are concerned. So South Atlanta with their backs against the wall. Here's Washington to throw, looking left now, looking right, in trouble. Hit as he tries to throw. It's flicked in the air, and that is going to be a touchdown for Grady.
Out of the air. Incredible.
Chris, I don't know if that's a fumble or an interception, but either way, that is a touchdown for Grady on the turnover, and that's got the home fans on their feet.
DeAndre Brown.
Chris, Washington stood back there way too long with that football. The rollout took time. Then he planted his feet. That took time, and by that time, the defense had arrived. Hit him as he tried to throw, and partner, I don't know if he got his arm moving forward, if he just got that thing knocked out of his hand, but it did go up in the air, and it was taken to the house for a Grady touchdown.
And that freshman, I'll say it again, that freshman really, really smiling. Interesting half of a quarter of football, Kevin.
And Zach Carter ties it up. The extra point is good, and that will be the final play of the first quarter here from Grady Stadium. Chris, I'll tell you what, partner, entertaining is definitely word I would go with here. So after 1, we are tied at 7. I want to remind our football fans, if you want to watch more of your school's great matchups like the game we're enjoying here tonight, tell your school to sign up for the Play On Sports School Broadcast Program. The program allows schools to broadcast all their games and other activities on the web. For more information, go to playonsports.com/SBP. We'll be back to Grady Stadium after this break with your score, Grady 7, South Atlanta 7. Welcome back to Grady Stadium, everyone, as we have ourselves a 7-7 ball game going to the second quarter. The final play of the first quarter, a wild turn of events on defense. Grady on, well, you're going to have to call it, partner. Fumble or interception. Either way, a touchdown for Grady.
A fumbleception.
And we are back to action. Fielded on the near side. Chris Williams takes it, dances to the outside. He'll get a pretty good return out of that to the 31-yard line. They'll probably mark it at the 30 where he stepped out of bounds. And South Atlanta will go back to work. So, Chris, we talked about them being against the chains, 3rd down and 20. Grady brought the house and got exactly what they were looking for. Not only the turnover, but just like that, defense scores first for Grady and ties this thing up.
Yeah, and the South Atlanta quarterback, he's going to have to get rid of that football a little faster. We saw the last 2 plays of the previous series. He held the ball too long and got sacked, and then he held the ball and was getting ready to turn, and then I'm going to continue calling this a fumbleception that was fielded in the air by DeAndre Brown. Regardless, it was a great play by the defensive lineman for Grady, and they put their first touchdown on the board.
High snap for Washington to field, but he does manage to get it off to his running back. Tavares Thomas on the carry. He might get 2 before he's brought down. Jonathan Golson on the stop. Again, Chris, we see these guys going both ways here early. This is going to be interesting late if this thing is close to see how these guys do hold up. But a pretty nice evening, cool enough where I don't think the heat's going to be a problem. I think hydration is probably covered for these guys here tonight. So both teams ready to do battle here tonight.
And I would say that in the first quarter, Kevin, South Atlanta's offense stayed on the field long enough to give the defense a breather when they needed it.
And South Atlanta definitely outnumbered, but showing great energy here tonight. Washington rolling again, in trouble, hit as he throws and overthrows his receiver, looking for Travion Webb on the right side. And Chris, that defense is getting to Washington a little closer every time, and they are punishing him when he releases the football.
Well, it looks like the Gray Knights have kind of picked up a little something from the opposing team, which is we're going to peel our ears back and we're going to come at you, and we're going to see what happens. And so far, Grady's been real successful. They started that about midway through the first quarter, and it's been pretty good so far.
Make it 3rd down now and 7. South Atlanta could really use a first down here to gain a little bit of positive field position. Don't want to hand over too much to Grady now. They've got the momentum. They finally got their crowd back in it. Play action for Washington. Being pursued now. He fires downfield. That is almost intercepted at midfield. Closest man to it was Deshaun Benton. Intended receiver on the far side was nowhere near it, looking for Tavares Thomas over there. No, check that, looking for Travion Webb again. And Webb was nowhere near it. So Washington rolling, trying to keep that pocket on the move, Chris. That has not worked for him here in the last 5 or 6 minutes or so.
And Kevin, it looks like Washington, he does better when he's able to stop and square his shoulders. We saw him rolling to the right, and he is right-handed, so you would think he would be comfortable tossing that ball, but he looked like he really had some problems, although he did have 3 or 4 dark jerseys chasing him down.
Camacho to punt, and that is blocked. Shamari Gervin. And it looked bad from the get-go, Chris. They sent everybody, and Camacho took too much time. And Gervin got in there and swatted it down, and just like that, here comes Grady in huge field position at the South Atlanta 16, 17-yard line.
Kevin, another situation where execution was the difference. South Atlanta, the snap was good. It's just they took too much time getting rid of the football, and the man that blocked the ball came from the outside. As you mentioned, Shamari Gervin was not touched. So another huge break for Grady. The first break of the football game went for South Atlanta early in the game, and now Grady gets their chance as they block the ball. They block the punt, and they're going to end up with the ball in the red zone looking to take the lead against South Atlanta.
Momentum definitely starting to swing toward the home side here. Just underway, second quarter, 10:48 to play until halftime. And Grady looking to take advantage now. We're 7 to 7 points off turnover, also 7-7.
Well, I was going to say, Kevin, I believe we've watched enough of this game to realize so far in this game that without that particular big play, South Atlanta's down 7-0. Grady had a big play. So if you take out the big plays, it's 0-0. But it looks thus far, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the team that looks as if they can control the offense and move the ball better so far has been Grady. Because Grady's had a couple of drives that stalled, but they were able to put some positive yardage on the field, not really a whole lot on the board. And South Atlanta, they're looking like they're a situation where it's going to be a big play or nothing, at least thus far in the ballgame.
And it looks like Grady was able to withstand that huge emotional run in the beginning. Now they're going to go on the ground left side. Fighting for yardage is going to be number 31, Shamari Gervin, the man who blocked the punt. That'll be a first down and goal now for Grady. And Chris, I think just by the force of sheer numbers, roster-wise, that Grady has the advantage where they could just wear down South Atlanta here in this football game with guys going both ways. You look at that far sideline, just a handful of folks over there, the underclassmen. But other than that, you've got the South Atlanta Hornets now. Most of these guys going both ways here tonight. First and goal from just outside the 5. Keep it on the ground, trying to find some room, and a nice job on defense getting there and shutting that down. Chris Williams gets on top. And Shamari Gervin is going to be thrown for a loss back near the 10, we'll call it the 9-yard line. So they have refused to wilt here, Chris. That South Atlanta defense doing what they need to do, getting big plays when they need it. So the Grady offense now asked a little bit more of them with Kevon Taylor, the quarterback, running in with the play.
Be interesting to see, Kevin, as the game progresses, how long South Atlanta's defense can withstand the size advantage that Grady has.
And once again, they give back the 5 on the nice defensive play with a lack of concentration, and they jump again, Chris. Is that 4 now? On that very same defensive miscue, they jump trying to get in those gaps early, and that's going to be 5 yards back inside the 5. Second down and goal now from the 5. So erase the good defensive play, and you just can't keep shooting yourself in the foot and giving free yardage to a team like Grady. They are just too powerful, and they will just keep coming at you as they do here. And then they come right back with a great play. Shamari Gervin, the ball carrier, but he is stuffed at the line of scrimmage.
A couple of white jerseys in there, including number 4.
Leon Thomas. Yeah, great play there. He shot the gap. But they've got to be more disciplined than that, Chris. They can't give away those free 5s. Third down and goal now. Big test for Kevon Thomas and company. Or Taylor, pardon me. And they've got the big fullback in there, number 5, Mark Reeves, the senior, in front of Gervin. Gervin gets the lead, and he's going to be taken down with a great job of penetration on defense. How about that effort by number 7, Tavares Thomas?
These linebackers are impressive for South Atlanta.
They are really coming, Chris. And I think the adjustment might be made here. If you've got a screenplay in your playbook, might be a nice time to throw something like that. But I think they're going to run the field goal unit out here and try to take the lead with 3.
Yeah, Chris Gardner, one of the linebackers, Leon Thomas, Tavarius Thomas. These guys are doing a great job.
Johnny Lephart is the holder for Zach Carter. 25-yard field goal attempt for the lead. A low snap, a good hold, and the kick is up, and the kick is good. And just like that, Grady takes advantage of the blocked punt and takes the lead 10-7 with 8:18 to play in the second quarter. So, Chris, they don't get the touchdown. And I'll tell you what, South Atlanta, we talked about the mistakes they make, but they dug deep that time. Got to feel like a little bit of a moral victory for them, a consolation prize of 3 instead of 7, and they'll get the ball back.
Well, if you're holding a team like Grady to 3 points when you give the Knights the football inside your own 20-yard line, definitely thumbs up, keeping your team in the ball game. Still plenty of time left. We've still got more than half of the second quarter remaining. And time for South Atlanta to kind of tighten things up a little bit. It's been kind of a strange game so far. A couple of big plays, a lot of penalties, especially on South Atlanta. When you look at the scoreboard, it's only 10-7. So plenty of football left and time for both teams to flex their muscles. And
you hate to speculate, Chris, but I think the 6-1 Grady Knights probably may have half overlooked the 3-4 Hornets coming in here tonight, but they have gotten all that they could ask for from South Atlanta.
Well, Kevin, you know, that's one of the things I talked to Coach Ronnie Millen about. I said, are you looking forward to the big? I said, is this kind of a tune-up for the big game next week? And he said, absolutely not. He said, the game's not big if we don't win tonight.
Chris Williams at the 15. Here he comes. The big, tall receiver cuts it upfield, stumbles forward to the 27-yard line, and that is where South Atlanta will go back to work.
And, Kevin, you can already see the fatigue. You've got guys that are playing offense. You've got guys that are playing defense. You've got guys that are playing kick return, punt return, special teams, the PAT, and they're starting to breathe a little heavy already for South Atlanta.
So the very same guys that were making huge plays on defense a moment ago are going to be asked to make huge plays on offense now and keep their team in this thing.
And if you noticed, after the kick return, not very many white jerseys ran off the field.
Absolutely. Maybe one or two substitutions from special teams to offense and back to defense. Jamario Washington, the senior quarterback, under center. And they're going to go with the scat back, and he is nailed. DeAndre Jackson gets planted back at the 24-yard line, and the big man got there first, Chris. Number 72, Terrence Beebe.
Yeah, the freshman DeAndre Brown was also in on the tackle.
And that Terrence Beebe, number 72, he is big and he is wide.
A lot of beef up front there for the Grady Gray Knights.
Loss of 2 on the play, 2nd down and 12, back to the 25-yard line. And they can ill afford to be put in the same position, Chris. We touched on it earlier. Special teams not the strong suit of either side, and we've already seen that weakness exploited on the South Atlanta side. They go back to the ground on the draw. They try right side this time with DeAndre Jackson. He manages to break a couple of tackles across the 30 to the 32, maybe 31-yard line. And South Atlanta will face a 3rd down and 7.
Looks like it was Ike Ukwu on the tackle that time, junior linebacker for Grady.
7 minutes to play until halftime. Grady lead 10-7 on the Carter 25-yard field goal. Both teams getting their initial touchdowns off turnovers. A defensive touchdown for Grady and a 55-yard touchdown run by the very athletic Jamario Washington for South Atlanta. Now he's got his work cut out for him. 3rd down and 7. A high snap for Washington. Straight drop this time. Firing outside and out of the reach of Travion Webb. And there's another 4th down situation coming up, Chris. And this is nail-biting time for some of the faithful over there on South Atlanta's side.
Kevin, I'd like to see Washington tuck and run. You know, he had a very successful.
Got a flag down, Chris, late back at the 27-yard line. We'll sort this out.
As I was saying, Washington very successful on that touchdown run, and he was able to find a gap and get to the outside and show his speed. Looks like they're going to wave off the flag.
So they'll pick up the flag, and it is going to be 4th down, and we'll call it 7. And once again, the punting unit trots on. It was disastrous last time.
And Camacho's got to get this ball off sooner.
And somebody blocks number 31 on the outside, please. Shamari Gervin. You see him on the near side here. He got to the punter last time. Now he's going to shift to the left side. 1 man back, so it looks like they're coming after Camacho again. This time he's able to get this off. A little sand wedge is going to bounce to the 40 and take a South Atlanta bounce, and a good one inside the 30 down toward the 25-yard line. So call that a success on special teams for South Atlanta this time. And that'll probably be the worst field position that the Grady Gray Knights have had tonight, back at their own 26-yard line to start this possession with 6:15 to play until halftime on senior night here at Grady Stadium. Kevin Beck with you along with Chris King, Jason and Kenny putting it all together for us here on Georgia High School Association's Friday night game of the week on PlayOnSports.com. We are thrilled to have you with us. The final Friday night of October already, partner. Already.
Kevin, very important moment in the game for South Atlanta. Right here midway through the 2nd quarter as we start working our way towards the end of the 2nd quarter. Can they keep themselves in the game, or is Grady going to start utilizing their power and just bull this game into attrition? And as I say that, one of those linebackers steps up and makes a great play. This time was a defensive back, Chris Williams.
They go out to the flat looking for Hakeem Todd that time, and the defense sniffs it out. That'll be, they're going to call it no gain, back to the original line of scrimmage, 2nd down and 10.
Kevin, what South Atlanta's doing is they are substituting the lack of size with some really quick and with some quick athletes and some good timing on defense. That's worked out pretty well.
2nd down and 10. Taylor to throw on play action, looking near side. Got Deshaun Benton
Beautiful
just
pass.
over his outstretched hands. A nice diving attempt there by Benton. And a good-looking throw there by Kevon Taylor. Had plenty of time. And a well-executed play. Had one-on-one coverage down here on the near side against Chris Williams. And had his man beat, but unable to connect. 3rd down and 10 from the 26.
Kevin, both sides have been faced with 3rd and long thus far in this ball game. Neither one of them very successful.
So both sides offensively, Chris, living very dangerously. They have been against the chains most of the night on both sides. Seen a lot of 3rd and longs and a lot of 4th down conversion attempts.
Kevin, watch those single number jerseys. They're coming again. Great play.
Taylor's got a man at the 35-yard line, and he's loose. That's going to be good enough for a 1st down for Grady. Connecting on the outside with Amir Smith. That's a nice-looking throw right into traffic there, Chris, and that'll move the chains. Nice 3rd down and 10 conversion for Grady, and they will stay on the march.
Kevin, give the Gray Knights offensive line credit that time. They picked up the blitz and allowed their quarterback to have time to find his receiver across the middle.
Boy, when he's got time, he throws a very nice pass over there. Kevon Taylor, the senior quarterback. 1st and 10 from their own 42-yard line. The Gray Knights on the 3rd down conversion. Just under 5 to play in the half. They're going to go give this time, and nothing happening. Jonathan Range in there, the big number 88, is going to stuff the ball carrier, Hakeem Todd.
Yeah, Trivion Webb also in there for South Atlanta.
So, Chris, on its face, it looks like with size and the lineup that Grady should be able to have their way with South Atlanta, but you touched on it a moment ago. Very athletic over there, not blessed with huge size, but great athleticism over there for South Atlanta, and they are really using what they've got to hold this Grady offense on the run game especially. 2nd and 10. The big fullback in there one more time, Mark Reeves, number 5, standing next to Taylor, and he stays in to block. Taylor to fire over the middle and got his man, Deshaun Benson. Ball pops out, but it looks like he's probably going to be down by contact at the 46-yard line.
Another quick slant.
And a nice job there by Mark Reeves, right on cue to pick up the blitzing number 88, Jonathan Range, because he had Taylor in his sights and was coming. And it'll be a 1st down.
Interesting, they're actually marking the ball where the fumble recovery was, so apparently that was a fumble recovered by the
all right, interesting
Grady.
call there, but dodging a bullet then, Grady, on the catch and fumble. Now Taylor with 2 backs to his right in the backfield. On 1st and 10 from the South Atlanta 46, looking to fire over the middle. That ball is tipped and almost intercepted. That was very close to being picked off. Jarvis Chapman got a hand on it. And a couple more fingers on that one, Chris. I think that might be going the other way.
And that's what they're doing. They're getting a hand in there. They're getting a foot in there. They're grabbing a shoestring. They're doing everything they need to do. And it's working for the most part.
Scratching and clawing everywhere they can. And they find themselves only down by 3, 10-7. Grady on top with 3:35 to play in the 1st half.
Kevin, Coach Millen for Grady hit the nail on the head earlier when he said these kids play hard, and thus far he is exactly correct.
Short on numbers, but big on heart. The South Atlanta Hornets here tonight. Taylor to throw with plenty of time, looking near side, and got his man one more time. That is Deshaun Benson, dancing through the middle, breaking tackles inside the 25. He'll go down at the 23-yard line. So another connection between Taylor and Benton, and that has worked several times here tonight for big yardage. And now Grady is in business. Got an injured player back at midfield for South Atlanta, and they can ill afford to have any injured players on that very short roster.
And Kevin, did you see how quick Benton made the cut as soon as he caught the ball? It's almost as if he had the ball and one of his feet was already cutting to the left side. He's got that elusive ability, which is kind of separates guys at this level sometimes, but a great catch and a great cut inside to gain another 10 or 12 yards for Grady.
Yeah, these Grady wide receivers, you get them in any kind of space at all with the football. They are extremely dangerous and fleet of foot down there on that turf surface. Looks like the injured player is going to walk off under his own power. That's DeQuavius Hodges.
He's definitely favoring that right ankle.
And that is something they can ill afford with that short roster on the Hornets side of the ball. So Grady goes back to work inside, deep inside South Atlanta territory. 3:24 to play until halftime. They lead 10-7, looking for more going in. As we said at the open, Grady comes in undefeated in the sub-region, 6-1 on the season. And their big rivals, Carver, 7-0 in the region, just ahead of them. Excuse me, 3-0, 7-0 on the season. First down and 10 from the 24-yard line. Taylor with plenty of time, looking near side, looking for Benton. It's a jump ball, and it's caught in the corner. And they're going to say no, out of bounds. Wow, Deshaun Benton with double coverage just went up for that jump ball. Managed to come down, Chris, and I don't know if we're playing on Sundays. I might throw the red flag out there on that one.
Well, it's the difference between 1 foot, 2 foot, as far as I believe you got to have 2 feet in. And he definitely had one. That was close. Kevin, let's watch and see what happens to see how significant this injury is for DeQuavius Hodges. Not only is he the nose guard on defense, but he also is the center on offense.
Huge cog in that South Atlanta team on both sides of the football. Second down and 10 from the 24. They go back to the air this time, and that's knocked away. A great defensive play on the far sideline. And they're going to say a flag on the play. Wow. I thought he had good position there, Chris, but they're going to say pass interference.
I think the impression was given that the contact was made earlier than needed because of the fact that the pass may have been thrown a little behind the receiver. There was a timing pattern, and the ball, in my opinion, was thrown a little quicker than it needed to be, and the receiver was a little bit ahead of it. But nonetheless, it's going to be a penalty and a big break for Grady.
A huge break, and they're going to say pass interference as it is. And that will be a first down just outside the 10-yard line, so Grady will be able to pick up a first down.
Well, Kevin, it looked like the right hand, which came in and deflected the ball, came in on time. Maybe the left hand of the defensive back was riding the receiver.
So the big fullback, Reeves, joins Taylor in the backfield another time out of the shotgun. Taylor to fire, got a man, and that's going to be a touchdown. Grady, Isaiah Jenkins on the receiving end. So Taylor hooks up through the air
Kevin,
to the junior Isaiah Jenkins.
We just mentioned how important the man that just walked off the field may have been. That ball came right across the middle in an area that you feel like DeQuavius Hodges may have been able to do something.
And, Chris, I'm seeing big heart on that far sideline. DeQuavius Johnson just grabbed his helmet, and he is limping back toward the coach with his helmet on, saying he wants to go in, but I don't think he's in any shape to go back in. Carter's kick is up, and it is good. So Grady extend their lead to 17-7 on a nice drive by the Grady Gray Knights. And South Atlanta did everything they could, Chris, but that injury to Hodges, as you said, that could be critical now. He is their center and their nose guard, the heart of that defense, and Taylor went right at it, and they get it for 6.
And not only is he playing center or nose guard, he's also probably on the kick return team, the punt return team. He's lined up on the line for the PATs. You lose a guy like that, especially when you have such a small roster as South Atlanta, it's really tough.
And there he is, Chris, at the 35-yard line, trotting out. What a warrior is Hodges. He is going to make a go of it with that sore left leg.
And
he is a fire plug of a player, and he is there. Yeah, he is really favoring that left leg, Chris. I don't know how effective he's going to be. 3 minutes and 1 second to play until halftime. Grady on top, 17-7 after the 12-yard hookup to Isaiah Jenkins from Kevon Taylor. And South Atlanta will go back to work with some wounded warriors out there on offense. DeAndre Jackson going to let that bounce, and that is a miscue on special teams by Grady. And that will give South Atlanta excellent field position. So they're going to need all the breaks they can get from here on in, Chris. Trailing by 10. They've got 3 minutes left to put something together. They will get the football to start the third quarter. Will the Hornets.
Kevin, you mentioned maybe you're taking advantage of the aggressiveness of South Atlanta's defense by calling a screen pass or something along those lines, or maybe having your quarterback roll out and just tuck it and run, see what he can do. You don't have to get 30 to 40 yards every single time. You can get 6-7 yards of play and be successful.
South Atlanta has already used 2 timeouts in the half, so they only have 1 to use. With 3 minutes and 1 second, they go from their own 35-yard line. Here's Washington to throw from the shotgun, looking, he wants to go long, hit as he throws, and that's up for grabs and intercepted at the 45. And here comes Reeves with a train of blockers in front of him. Mark Reeves will score for Grady. A 55-yard pick six for Mark Reeves. And Chris, we talked about it. Washington been getting hit and pressured, and this time the ball was just a lame duck, up for grabs, and Reeves, the running back, no problem with those skills, takes it home.
You kind of thought that may be the thought process when they came out in that spread offense with 4 or 5 receivers, which we haven't seen that very often. But as I mentioned, you don't really have to go for pay dirt every single time. That would have been a great time for the quarterback to tuck and run because he had the Grady defense spread out with the 5 receivers out there. He could have pump faked or maybe looked one way and then just kind of taken off and got what he could. But nevertheless, big play, big break, extended the lead for the Grady Gray Knights.
And Carter knocks the extra point through, and just like that, Chris, in the blink of an eye, one play, one touchdown. It's 24-7. Grady jumps out on top of South Atlanta, and you can just tell by the body language on the far sideline, those guys have got to dig deep, or this one could get out of shape in a big, big hurry. So they will go back to work on offense. And they are struggling right now on that South Atlanta side. And it's going to be an onside kick, so they really go to the well here. Do Grady. And a nice reception there, just a fall on a Travion Webb. He's going to pounce on it. So that's a break for South Atlanta. Chris, they're going to get a little good field position there with 2:41 to play. So not the end of the world on the onside kick, but looked like Grady really trying to put the knife in before halftime.
And you know what? That wasn't a bad play from the perspective of trying to catch South Atlanta off guard. They only had one guy short, and he just happened to be able to field the football. But here's a chance for South Atlanta if they can get down here and even put 3 on the board before halftime. You got to feel like they can hold their head and come back out here in the second half and hope to put more on the board to cut into the lead.
And they will get the football to start the second half. Now here's Washington. He's going to take the direct snap, QB draw.
That's what he needs to do.
And Coach King, that probably should have been played, that call should have been played, or play should have been called, I'm trying to say, about 5 minutes ago. Good yardage down inside Grady territory to the 43-yard line. The clock will start as they move the chains. So nice job by Washington there, again, taking the team on his shoulders and trying to make something happen.
I'm not sure I agree with Washington running all the way over to the sideline and getting the play and coming back. This clock is running, and it's rapidly approaching halftime. They've taken a lot of time off the clock.
It'll probably be down to 2 minutes when they snap this football. Jamario Washington, the senior quarterback, trying to keep the Hornets in it here before halftime. Wants to throw another time, now ducks out of trouble, runs right back into trouble, loses the football, but it's going to be recovered by Tavarius Thomas. Nice job by Thomas to pounce on that. They're going to lose 4, maybe 5 on the play. But they dodged that bullet there, just holding on to the football way too long back there as Washington trying to make something happen.
And again, taking a long time. You can call 2 or 3 plays. You can call a timeout. You've got a couple of timeouts left. About 95 seconds left on this clock.
Second down, we'll call it 16 from the Grady 43. 4 wide out set now. They will spread it for Washington. Desperation time has arrived for the South Atlanta Hornets. They go draw play up the middle this time with Thomas, and he's met at the line of scrimmage and will get nothing out of that one, and the clock will continue to run, and it looks like that will be the final timeout taken by South Atlanta. No, check that, Chris. Looks like Grady's going to call a timeout. They have 3 to play with, so they may be playing a little strategy, trying to get the football back and make something happen before the half.
Can't say that I blame them. South Atlanta ran a lot of time off, and now with 3rd and long, Grady can utilize their timeouts, possibly force South Atlanta to punt the football, and we've seen that's been an adventure thus far here in the first half.
Absolutely an adventure. So it looks like third down, and we'll call it 16. And it is definitely a 4-down territory for the South Atlanta Hornets. They try to stay in this football game, trailing 24-7 with 1:13 to play until halftime. The Grady Gray Knights looking to go undefeated in the region and post a 7-1 record going into November.
Might be a situation where you try to spread the field again and take your chances with Jamario Washington.
Let's see what they go with. 2 wideouts to the top now for Washington. And they're going to bring Thomas into the backfield for protection. Third down and 16. Washington to throw, looking now in trouble. Wrapped up, and he'll go down again. Ball pops out. And let's see what they call as far as whether or not he was down, and they will say down by contact, and that will be another timeout called by Grady. So, Chris, strategy works perfectly for Grady. They get the sack, and now they will force South Atlanta to punt to them, and they'll get the ball back with just under a minute.
And you know, Kevin, if I'm Grady, I'm not so sure I don't put 10 or maybe even 11 on the line.
They've shown that they can do that. I think that's a good call, Coach, and they will come after this hard. They've shown already that they can get there. Shamari Gervin with a big block deep in South Atlanta territory earlier, and they capitalized on that with a field goal.
Yeah, worst case scenario for Grady, they don't block the kick. The ball bounces down inside the 15-yard line, and you take a 17-point lead in the halftime.
Right.
Best case is they may get a block or another situation where they could put a couple of more points on the board here late.
So Camacho will punt probably from his own 45-yard line. If Grady can get in and get some penetration, you'd think that they can, as you said, worst case scenario, get the football around their own 30 with some time and 1 timeout to play with.
And Kevin, talking to the South Atlanta head coach before the game, he did mention that his regular kicker, his normal kicker, hurt himself, messed up some ligaments. So Jose Camacho is a guy who has not been kicking very long.
And that he just gets that away. I think we might have a finger on the football, maybe not. We're going to have flags down for roughing the kicker. No indication of a tipped ball. So if it is in fact roughing the kicker, we'll see how they sort that out. Personal foul, roughing the kicker is going to be the call against Grady. And that will change everything as far as Grady's strategy is concerned. Chris, you were right. They did come after it. 3 men got there. And that's what Grady is lobbying for, saying that the ball was tipped. And that is exactly what they're going to say. They will pick up the flag. And just like that, Chris, Grady will have the football at their own 41-yard line. 53 seconds to play in the half. 1 timeout to work with.
Kevin, that was the right call. The ball was deflected. Therefore, there should not have been a penalty.
And credit the officials, Chris, for throwing the flag, talking it over, and picking it up. A nice job there by the officiating staff. First down for Grady. Kevon Taylor and company come back out with that 24-7 lead.
Watch Deshaun Benton. He has been targeted almost exclusively in the air in the first half.
Here's Taylor to throw with time. Fires over the middle. That is juggled and caught. A nice job of concentration and holding on to the football. Marquavius Henry.
Clock is moving.
Clock will continue to roll. 40 seconds and rolling. Again, Grady do have a timeout. Second down and a couple, but they really want to get down into field goal range for Carter. Here's Taylor another time. There's the screen we were looking for, Chris.
Great
and
call.
It's wide open. Hakeem Todd loose with blockers downfield inside the 30. Still dragging tacklers inside the 20. And that will stop the clock at 16.6 as they move the chains. So strategy working to perfection here, Chris, for the Grady Gray Knights.
You just knew one of the teams was eventually going to throw that in there. And that was a great play call. There were 3 white jerseys in front of their quarterback. He threw a screen to the middle. You don't see that very often, but it worked out because the entire defense was spread all over the field, and the result was a big gain for Grady, and they still had a timeout, and it's a great time for them to use it.
And this is exactly what they did, Chris. They have called that final timeout with 16-6, maybe a shot at the end zone. If it goes incomplete, you run Carter on, try the field goal. because South Atlanta will get the ball to start the third quarter. And Chris, halftime couldn't come any sooner for the South Atlanta Hornets. They are absolutely gassed. It's a lot like a soccer match out there. Grady just making South Atlanta chase the football. And those guys have got to be gassed, ready for a halftime break. And we might have a couple minutes of an extended halftime since it is senior night here at Grady. So a good break for South Atlanta. They're going to have to go into that locker room, heal up, and regroup for that second half.
And Kevin, if Grady does not go for the end zone, I would suspect they would at least run a play that would, at the minimum, give them a first down so they could get up to the line and spike the ball after the ball is set.
They do spread the wideouts. Now here's Taylor to throw. One-on-one down at the 10-yard line. Caught. Easy. Diving toward the end zone. They're going to say he didn't make it. Hakeem Todd. Now the first down will stop the clock, Chris, for the movement of the chains. No timeouts for Grady. 9 seconds will start ticking away when they spot the football.
I think there's laundry on the field.
There is. And we're going to have illegal. Oh, no.
That's huge right there.
A false start against Grady, and that is a killer,
Kevin,
especially out of the timeout, Chris.
I think your man in motion may have started moving forward a little sooner than he should have.
He was in motion from the far sideline, and he turned toward the line of scrimmage before the snap of the football. That's just a heartbreaker. Everything was working strategy-wise for Grady until that miscue. So now, Coach, you go straight for the end zone and take your chances. And in completion, you run your field goal kicker out. 7 seconds. And it looked like the clock ticked off about 2.2, then stopped again, Chris. It was at 9.2, then it clicked for down to 7 and stopped again.
Well, if the penalty was against the offense, shouldn't they set the ball and start the clock again?
Well, it looks like that's what the timekeeper tried to do, then stopped it. So a little controversy on the clock.
Because it's almost a break for the offense if they are assessed the penalty but are rewarded by stopping the clock.
And that's exactly what has happened for Grady here. They do get a break. And now the coaching staff from Grady is out on the field, and they want to talk it over. And I think South Atlanta's just ready to get to that halftime locker room any way they can. So it will be first down and 15 with 7 seconds to play in the first half. Grady and their 17-point lead looking for more. Wow, that false start procedure call against, and they're going to move the clock back up. Chris, looks like they're going to do it. They are going to put the clock back up to 9 seconds. And Kevon Taylor and company will be ready to go when they wind it. Here's Taylor to throw, looking and throwing down the center. Got a man. It doesn't matter, Chris. It's all academic. Marquavius Henry from 24 yards out. Kevon Taylor hits him. And just like that, it's all for naught. And Grady's in the end zone again.
Kevin, a lot of tired legs over there. That I mentioned before, the play that came back with the procedure looked a little bit too easy. That looked a little bit too easy as well. Chris Williams looks gassed out there, and he was the one trying to cover the receiver and just couldn't stay with him.
Carter on to make it 31-7. And he does just that. With 4.6 seconds remaining here at Grady Stadium, it is Grady 31 and South Atlanta 7.
We may have some laundry on the field
we
where we may have some
personal foul.
Roughing the kicker.
Roughing the kicker is going to be the call.
Holder. The holder is the one that got plowed on that particular play.
And they will assess that on the kickoff. And South Atlanta doesn't like the looks of that. And, Chris, I think they need to watch their composure over on the South Atlanta sideline. The official turned around very quickly as if someone said something. And they will assess that on the kickoff. Nonetheless, 4.6 seconds remain until halftime. Grady on top, 31-7. Now, we touched on it in the pregame show. Grady comes in averaging 27.3 points per game, Chris. They've eclipsed that in 24 minutes.
A lot of frustration on the South Atlanta sideline. They started out with a lot of excitement when they had the big play early on that turned into a touchdown, their 55-yard touchdown run by their quarterback. But ever since then, Grady has sort of settled in, and we talked about how Grady's size, experience would eventually get to him. And here, midway through the second quarter and on to the end of the second quarter, we're seeing South Atlanta, they're just wearing down. They're just gassed.
They are, Chris. And after the march of the 15-yard personal foul penalty, it looks like Carter will kick off to South Atlanta from South Atlanta territory on their 45-yard line. So wouldn't expect a return, but another great place for an onside kick try. And as we said, South Atlanta would love to see these seconds just mercifully tick off the clock and send them to the halftime locker room. Here's Carter, and he elects to drive this one deep, and that will get into the end zone. And no time will tick off. So South Atlanta will have to be forced to run one more play in this first half. They trail 31-7.
And what do you say? What do you say to the South Atlanta team when you go into halftime? Your coach, you got to find something positive. Look, we started out strong. We got a big break. We're able to we got a big break on defense. We're able to turn that into quick points on the board. But what has happened is South Atlanta has allowed Grady to get into the grind of the football game, and with the grind comes the advantage in the size, the advantage in the
just
experience department.
And just sheer numbers, partner. I mean, it's just, we talked about whether they'd make it to the third quarter, fourth quarter. They've really struggled to make it to halftime with that very short roster. So Washington and company will trot out on first down and 10 from their own 20. And they're going to go with the toss far side. They stay with it, and they go to DeAndre Jackson. Breaking tackle, showing big heart, loses his helmet, and the horn does sound. So that will send us to the halftime locker room here at Grady Stadium. It's 31-7. Grady is on top. And I want to remind all our football fans that Play On Sports is on Facebook and Twitter, giving you news and information and links to great highlights. You can follow us 24/7 on Facebook and Twitter at Play On Sports. You can also access thousands of live and on-demand games on YouTube at youtube.com/PlayOnNetwork. Keep up with all the high school action every week from your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. That gets us to halftime here at Grady Stadium with the score: the Grady Gray Knights 31 and the South Atlanta Hornets 7. Senior night halftime activities coming up right after this. Welcome back to Grady Stadium, everyone, for PlayOnSports.com's Georgia High School Association Game of the Week. The Grady Gray Knights and the South Atlanta Hornets on senior night here in Atlanta. And a very nice halftime activity honoring all the seniors at Grady High School, and a very nice crowd on hand for it. And the score working pretty well for them, too. 31-7, the Grady Gray Knights on top of the South Atlanta Hornets, getting ready for second half action. The Hornets will receive to start the third quarter. Kevin Beck along with the big man, Chris King, Jason, our producer, Kenny on the camera here tonight. And Chris, well, we're not going to bury South Atlanta just yet. They had a great opening first quarter of action, but they just did not have what it took to hang with the Grady Gray Knights for the duration of the first half. And we find ourselves 31-7, and halftime could not have come soon enough for the South Atlanta Hornets.
And Kevin, when you're an underdog, one of the things you want to do is you want to jump out quickly, and that's exactly what South Atlanta did. They were fortunate to get a turnover deep in Grady territory early in the first quarter and turned around, and in a couple of plays they had a big touchdown run by their quarterback, Jamario Washington, which put them on the board 7-0. They stopped Grady a couple of times, but ever since then, the Gray Knights have really flexed their muscles and taken control of this game.
DeAndre Jackson receives to start the third quarter for the South Atlanta Hornets, and he is going to be stopped at the 22-yard line. Forward progress will be shown to the 24. And, Chris, they've got to find a way to do something positive and get themselves back in this game. They're outnumbered and outsized right now, but you've got to think 24 more minutes of football. They've got to find a way to do something positive in the remainder of this football game.
And I was watching South Atlanta as they went into the locker room, Kevin, and not only were they dejected, a lot of them had their heads down, but a lot of the kids were limping. I mean, you know, we talked about the sheer numbers. They've got 11 on the field right now, and if you look over on their bench, what, 7 or 8 white shirts maybe?
And a couple of guys came out, Chris, you and I documented during the halftime show, a couple of guys came out with their pads in their hands, and that is not good news for a very short roster. So we go back to work. Jamario Washington, the quarterback for South Atlanta, he loads up first right off the bat, and it is going to be incomplete. Looking for DeAndre Jackson over there on the far sideline. The little man was double covered, and he was well covered, and the pass falls incomplete. Second down and 10.
Well, you got to make something happen. I talked earlier about maybe kind of settling down and giving it to your quarterback to run up the middle and try to do a little ball control, but obviously South Atlanta, that is not going to be what they want. They didn't draw that up on the drawing board tonight. What they want to do is they want to come out and spread the field and put that ball and get that ball down the field as quickly as they possibly can. It hadn't happened so far in the game, but who knows? You get out there, you get a tip, you get somebody slip and fall. Anything's possible.
Just looking for something good to happen and keep this thing at least workable. Here's Washington on the rollout. He's in trouble running for his life. Tried to set up a backside screen and nothing happening. Probably good that it did not. DeAndre Jackson, the intended receiver. But, Chris, I think if Jackson gets his hand on that football, they lose 7, 8, maybe 10 yards on the play. So third down and 10, the better situation in that scenario for the Hornets.
And one of the things the quarterback is doing, Kevin, is he is almost completely turning his back to the defense. And when he turns around, more times than none, he's got one of those big black jerseys right there almost wanting to lock helmets with him. So he's got to do a better job of maybe being a little bit more elusive and allowing the offense to progress.
That defensive line really teeing off on the offensive line of South Atlanta. Now here's Washington to throw another time, heaving it far side. That's going to be a jump ball on the far side. Tipped and intercepted. A great defensive play and a great athletic effort on the far sideline. That is going to be Deshaun Benton, the wide receiver. And, Chris, all intents and purposes right there, probably as good as a punt would have been in that particular scenario. So not the end of the world for South Atlanta. But Grady will go back to work in excellent field position at their own 47-yard line. And you documented in the first half there, Chris, not an awful lot of substitutions happening on that change of possession.
I don't think I saw anybody come off the field that time.
So South Atlanta just turns it over on the interception, and now they face, once again, a very potent offense with Kevon Taylor running the show, the quarterback for Grady. First and 10 from the 47-yard line. Taylor to throw, looking and firing near side. Got a man. And breaking tackles is Isaiah Jenkins down to the 40-yard line. So Kevon Taylor now picking apart that secondary, Chris. We talked a little bit about it like being a soccer game, just making the opposition chase the football, and they will just run out of legs.
And it continues to look a little bit too easy. Just a simple pass out to the flats and positive yards. The actual completion was good for about 3 yards, but yards after the catch is what got Grady the first down.
Taylor play action. Now he's in trouble, pursued from the backside. He's just going to throw that one away, gets out of the pocket, and wisely just throws that into the sideline of South Atlanta.
Travion Webb was the man that was pressuring the senior quarterback.
2nd down and 10 from the South Atlanta 40. 10:42 to play in the 3rd quarter. Just underway from Grady Stadium. Henderson Field, right in the center of Atlanta tonight for PlayOnSports.com. Georgia High School Association football. What a gorgeous Friday night for some pigskin.
And Kevin, Grady's not sitting back and enjoying a 31-7 lead. They are trying to put that ball up in the air. They want to put more points on the board.
Here's Taylor once again, 2 backs in there for protection, 2 wideouts to the top. And Taylor to throw on 2nd and 10. Fires over the middle, and that is almost intercepted. He badly overthrew that one, and a man, DeAndre Jackson, short hopped it back at the 22. So it'll be 3rd down and 10. And that is going to keep the clock from running, Chris. Both teams coming out throwing the football all over the park here tonight.
And Kevin, what does South Atlanta have to do to stop that play? How many times have we seen that quick slant work? And the only reason that one didn't work is because the pass was thrown a little ahead of the receiver. He did have a step on the defensive back, but what does South Atlanta have to do to stop that?
They've got to get pressure on Taylor. And right now, just a 3-man rush by the Hornets, not getting it done. Now they send the linebackers in the gaps to try to put pressure on Taylor. He's got time. He fires over the middle. Now he's got his man, Chris, on that quick slant another time down to the 20-yard line. And that is working once again.
And that offensive play was almost run to perfection. Quarterback stepped back. Blitz was picked up on the outside. Interior blocking did their job. Quarterback stood his ground, allowed his receiver to run the route, threw an absolute bullet, and the result was a huge gain for Grady.
Amir Smith did a nice job getting into some space there and making himself available for his quarterback. 1st and 10 from the 21. They're going to go on the ground this time. Hakeem Todd. He'll have a couple to the 20 and not much more than that. 2nd down and 8.
It's Chris Gardner on the tackle that time.
And Chris, it's just obvious. Grady just continues to run sub after sub onto the field, and South Atlanta has no answers over there on their bench. From the 20-yard line, Taylor from the shotgun. Here comes the big blitz from South Atlanta. One-on-one coverage near side. And twisting the receiver out of bounds. That's Deshaun Benton. And he can't get there. So, Chris, good news over there for South Atlanta. DeQuavius Hodges back in the football game with that right ankle heavily, heavily taped.
And, Kevin, we've seen the success that Grady has had, Kevon Taylor has had throwing to Deshaun Benton. I'm thinking if you're the defensive back, every time the pass comes to Benton, it's to the outside. If you're the defensive back, take the outside and have the safety come over and help you on the inside. You've seen double coverage, but even in double coverage, there's been about a half a step that Benton has had on both the defenders.
And, Chris, they are running that aggressive defensive formation there where they run those linebackers in, leaving those secondary men on an island out there, one-on-one coverage all over the field. Now they go screen again inside, looking for Hakeem Todd, breaking tackles and getting a little bit of space down there inside the 15-yard line. And a flag down back at the 25.
Flag was thrown by the line judge. I don't know if somebody may have lined up offside or if South Atlanta actually, their movement maybe encroached the line of scrimmage.
It's going to be false start against Grady, so they've been pretty solid as far as penalties tonight on that Grady side of the football, Chris. A pretty cleanly played football game by the Gray Knights here tonight. That'll make it 3rd down and 15.
And it might be a situation, Kevin, where it may be time to have your linebackers step back and help in coverage.
Well, right now, those guys are really gassed over there on the South Atlanta side of the football. 8:35 to play in the third quarter.
One thing we haven't seen tonight, Kevin, is Kevon Taylor tuck the ball and run himself.
He's got a lot of weapons back there. He's really distributing the football nicely. Probably doesn't want to get out there. Now we're going to have flags and whistles before the snap.
I think we're going to have a mirror image of the previous penalty.
And it's going to be a dead ball foul offside against South Atlanta, so they're going to give it back.
And, Kevin, that's the 5th 5-yard offside penalty that South Atlanta has given Grady. And I'm all about aggression. I'm all about taking chances. But
when you've got them against the chains,
stop?
You shoot yourself in the foot, you give those 5 yards right back. So instead of 3rd and 15 from outside the 20, it's now 3rd and 8 from the 20.
Puts Grady in that offensive situation where that successful slant that's been done so well, 7 to 10 yards down the field, that definitely comes into play.
In the red zone, Todd stays back in protection. Taylor to throw, once again looking to the outside. That pass is almost intercepted. Looking for Isaiah Jenkins on the outside. And a nice job out there by DeAndre Jackson.
And Kevin, did you notice this time that there was some coverage on the outside?
I think they listened to you, Chris. I think you got safety help. And it'll be 4th down and 8 from the 20-yard line. And they are going to run Zach Carter out onto the football field.
So even though South Atlanta needs to put points on the board, give their defense credit for stiffening just a bit and forcing Grady to attempt a field goal.
4th down and 8. Carter will attempt a 37-yard field goal to extend the lead. 31-7 Grady right now. Carter looking to pad that lead for the Gray Knights. A high snap, little trouble with it, and that is rejected. And South Atlanta will pounce on it back at the 31-yard line. So a special teams miscue. The snap was never any good for the holder to handle, Chris. That really never had a chance. Johnny Lephart just could not field it and get it down in time for Carter.
And I saw there is at least one South Atlanta player down on the field. It looks like he's limping off the field.
Martavius Favors, the injured South Atlanta player. And Chris, that is just something they cannot afford here tonight.
And on the far right side, we've got Jarvis Chapman, who's being helped off by one of the coaches. So the the injuries continue.
They are just a walking wounded over there on the South Atlanta Hornets sideline. But here come the Hornets.
They're playing hard. Just give them credit. They stopped Grady. They got the ball back.
They got the football back and held the Gray Knights scoreless on that drive. Now let's see what Washington can do with them. They go back to Jackson. Toss right side. He's got room. Puts his head down. And he'll have good positive yardage out there to the 38-yard line. So a toss sweep works for South Atlanta.
Easily one of the best offensive plays of the night for South Atlanta. They got the pulling guard out to the outside. They got a block on the outside as well.
How about DeAndre Jackson? We saw him break up a pass in the end zone a couple moments ago. Now he's out there taking the toss sweep with his head down, running like a man possessed for the Hornets. Approaching 7 minutes to play, third quarter. Call it 2nd down and 3 for the Hornets at their own 37-yard line. Here's Washington. They go on the ground again, back to Jackson, and nothing happening there. He'll get back to the line of scrimmage, possibly, and no more than that.
May actually have been a loss of a little bit.
I'm going to say forward progress right back to the line of scrimmage, partner. So call it 3rd down and 3, South Atlanta. You'd like to say they want to keep the football and give their defense a breather, but their defense is out there. So these guys have really got a tall task out there. And you can see number 55 just limping to the line. DeQuavius Hodges, the nose guard and center, the captain of that offensive line. What a trooper and warrior he has shown to be here tonight. Washington on the rollout, in trouble in the backfield. Breaks a shirt tackle. Now he's got some space in the center. And finally Washington looking for blockers upfield. Gets one, and he is inside Grady territory to the 32-yard line, directing traffic as he ran upfield, Chris, and he was all but tackled in the backfield. A man had him by the shirt. He broke free, and boy, did the seas open for him in the middle.
And that was all effort by Jamario Washington. I tell you what, yeah, it was almost as if he turned around. As I said, he turned his back to the play. He turned around and had one of the big black shirts in his face. I believe it was DeAndre Brown. And he said, you know what, not this time. And he just kind of juked to the right and shot right up the middle and got a first down and kept the drive alive.
Managed to break that shirt tail grip and keep the drive alive. As you said, here's Jackson right side. They go toss right side again for DeAndre Jackson, and he drags tacklers. Good strength there. Boy, he is a strong young man, dragging tacklers very close to another South Atlanta first down. Clock continues to run, 5:20 to play in the third quarter. Be just short probably, Chris, maybe about the length of a football.
Well, Kevin, there's no secret when South Atlanta wants to run the football. They are very confident in the ability of the right side of their offensive line, because that's where they're running, and for the most part successful when they do go to the outside.
And they're going to take another look at it and say it is first down South Atlanta on the Jackson carry. And there's a mistake, a mental error by Grady, and that'll be a free 5. Chris, you got to give South Atlanta all the credit in the world for hanging in there, showing heart, and making Grady play this football game out.
They're hanging around, most definitely. I mean, 24 points is a pretty large lead, but if you put one in the end zone here.
Keep it on the ground this time. Tavares Thomas, he's in. Touchdown South Atlanta. So they come back after the botched field goal attempt, march the distance, and get 7, Chris. South Atlanta refusing to roll over and die.
Another opportunistic team. We saw the very first score of the game by South Atlanta. They took a turnover and came and fed off a big run by their quarterback and scored a touchdown, and did the identical thing. They came in, they blocked the field goal attempt and came down and quickly put 6 on the board, looking for 7 with the PAT.
And we're going to have a flag down, substitution foul, of all things, Chris, against South Atlanta on the extra point. So that'll march Camacho back 5.
You know, as much as these guys have been playing, if they want to try to sneak another one in there.
So Camacho on now. This becomes all of a sudden a little more dramatic extra point for the new place kicker. Now South Atlanta trying to regroup and make sure they've got the right gentleman on the field this time. So a 24-yard extra point for the new replacement kicker, Jose Camacho. This will make it 31-14 if he can convert this one. A good snap, a good set, a good hold, and it looks like he yanked it to the left. He sure did, Chris. He pulled it, and the PAT is no good. So it'll be 31-13 with 4:55 to play. So the penalty cost him a little bit of accuracy there.
Kevin, look at the difference between the Grady guys jogging off the field and the South Atlanta guys doing their best to get off the field.
Just trying to conserve energy.
And honestly, a lot of them aren't leaving the field. They're just going over to the sidelines, trying to take a breath, getting a sip of water, and they're coming right back on the field.
So with just under 5 to play in the third, it's 31-13 Grady. And Chris, in all likelihood, they probably won't come out of here with a W, but they will come out of here with an awful lot of respect from everyone who's watched this football game, myself included, that these guys have shown incredible heart going both ways against a superior opponent.
And I'm not so sure. I mentioned earlier about maybe more talent on the Grady side. I'm not sure that, you know, player for player, the talent level isn't a lot closer than I initially intended, but it's just the numbers right now.
I'd have to agree with you, partner. Fielded at the 5. Looks like Shamari Gervin. We have a flag down on the play. Gervin out across the 30 to about the 34-yard line. Penalty marker down at the 25.
Counting the kicker, 3 white jerseys. Well, it was about to be 3.
And now we have a player over on the far sideline, Chris, cramping up, like number 13 in trouble, and that is Camacho. And they can ill afford that, and he is in some significant pain. on that far sideline. Looks like a cramp. He's holding his leg up like that will be the case. So the penalty against Grady will march them back to the 15-yard line, and that is easily the worst starting field position that they've had in this football game. And we do have Camacho off the field at midfield for the South Atlanta Hornets. So the Gray Knights will go back to work. Probably a little disappointed they didn't get any points last time they had the football, and back came South Atlanta with the score.
I feel like there's going to be no difference in defense. They're going to come after the quarterback.
So Kevon Taylor, 1st and 10 from his own 15-yard line. Waiting for the officials to spot the ball, and we will go back to action.
Kevin, maybe this might be a situation with the clock at under 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Still a long time to go in this ball game, but the best way for Grady to keep control of this game is to run the football right down South Atlanta's throat.
And they do just that, Coach King. They're going to keep it on the ground this time with big yardage out toward the 40, rumbling and carrying tacklers out there. A great effort on the carry another time, and that is superb effort. Hakeem Todd on the carry. He has been a workhorse for Kevon Taylor all the way out to the 41-yard line.
Very, very impressive running that time. Great interior blocking that time by the offensive line for Grady.
And here comes the massive all-out blitz, and they run right into it, but a great job of finding the hole. Todd loses the football as he hits the ground, and they're going to say down by contact inside South Atlanta territory. And Chris, you called it. They keep it on the ground, but they're getting big chunks of yardage at the same time. So best case scenario right now for the Gray Knights, moving the ball and the clock. It'll be 4 minutes by the time they snap this, probably under now. 4:04 and ticking for Kevon Taylor and company. But South Atlanta refuses to go away.
Movement
and
on that left
false
side.
Start by the left side of the offensive line. And that's a free 5. That will march the football back across midfield to Grady's side.
Kevin, we've seen so many times, not necessarily in this ball game, but during the season where to play like that, you know, you have 2 huge positive yardage gains, and then a play like that stalls your offense. Let's hope it doesn't happen for Grady.
Those are absolute drive killers. Here's Taylor on the give this time. They go inside again. And they continue to work that middle. This time Isaiah Jenkins on the carry. And he'll get back the penalty and 1, so call it 2nd down and 9 from the South Atlanta 46. And this is keeping the clock moving, 3:09 and ticking. One-on-one coverage here near side, Chris. And here comes the troops. They just blitz that center, and the run goes right past it this time.
He's gone.
Isaiah Jenkins reaches for the goal line. No official signal yet. And they're going to say down at the 1. His knee was down at the 1 before he reached across. And, Chris, that's the price you pay when you do that all-out blitz.
I think they reversed it and said it was a touchdown.
So they do talk it over and say that he did reach across. Okay. These officiating guys have done a fantastic job here tonight, Chris. They talk things over, they look confident, and they seem to be making the right calls every time they discuss the call in question. So touchdown for Jenkins. And just like that, Grady extend to 37-13.
And did I see Kevon Taylor put his helmet on like maybe he's going to go back, he's going to go in the game?
He is. He's coming right back out. You see him there, number 2, after a word with his coach.
So maybe, is it not a touchdown? Well, the Sticks stay first and goal.
No, they're going to say, no, they're still talking it over, Chris. We have not seen a signal either way.
The scoreboard indicates touchdown.
The scoreboard has shown 37-13 with 2:40 to play in the third. but the yardstick says first down at the 1. So let's see if they sort this out. And they do. It is going to be first down at the 1, so take the points off the board. Taylor and company come back out. First and goal from the 1. And they will huddle up, and now the officials will come over and discuss it with the coaching staff on the Grady sideline.
And I think that might have been the right call.
I thought it was the right call.
Before the lunge for the ball to the goal line, I believe there was a knee down at about the 1.5 yard line.
Looked like the knee hit, then he reached. And that is going to be the right call by the officiating staff here tonight. So reset it for you now. It's first down and goal from the 1. 2:40 to play third quarter. 31-13. Grady looking for more. Each team with their full complement of timeouts. And they will wind the clock. So Taylor comes to the line, tight formation, looking to cash in. Taylor on the keeper, and the wave of black shirts into the end zone. Touchdown, Grady.
Well, they went right off the backside of big number 60, Deavius Willingham. And more times than none, you're going to be successful when that happens.
So now it's 37-13, awaiting the point after attempt by Carter. And Chris, I'm not sure I saw anyone applaud here on the near sideline after that touchdown. I expected to hear a little bit of enthusiasm, but didn't. So senior night, a big success here for Grady so far. And Carter's extra point is up, and it is good. So with 2:23 to play in the third quarter, it is Grady 38 and South Atlanta 13.
And Kevin, what's the best way to take the momentum away from a team that scores? You come back and you score yourself. That's exactly what Grady did, and they did it the way I felt like they needed to do, which is just grind the ball out, trying to take time off the clock. The fortunate thing for Grady is most of their plays in that drive were for huge gains, and they didn't have to take a whole lot of time off the clock, but the result is 6+1, which is what you want regardless, 38-13, and this relentless South Atlanta offense. We just need to stop saying offense and defense. We're just going to say the guys are going to switch sides and do what they need to do.
Yep, the same bunch of guys has the ball, same bunch of guys defending the ball.
Tip my hat to the kids, though. They're playing hard.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the high-octane ground and pound that time, I guess you would call that, by Grady, got the job done. Kevon Taylor caps it off with a 2-yard dive. And Carter set to kick. So it's going to go to Jackson. He'll stand at his own 10 and receive it. Here comes DeAndre Jackson. Flags down in front of him, and he's knocked out of bounds at his own 27-yard line. See a penalty marker down at the 30-yard line.
And Kevin, when you get to the, the classifications in Georgia, obviously the smaller A, single A, double A, triple A traditionally don't have the numbers that the schools in the 4A, 5A, and 6A level have. When you start getting to the 4A level, you're starting to see some pretty big schools with some pretty big numbers. So a team like South Atlanta, which comes in to a season with this amount of players, this small of a roster, and they've got teams in their region like Carver of Atlanta and Grady and Washington that have a lot of players, and then that's on the Division B side. And on the A side, you've got perennial powerhouses like Marist and Chambly who bring thousands of kids through their program, and they have numerous amounts of kids on their rosters. It's tough to compete week in and week out, and you see a situation like this, as I said earlier, not as much talent, but just not the numbers that some of these bigger schools have.
Illegal chop block is the call against the South Atlanta Hornets, and that will march them deep into their own territory. First down and 10 from the 15-yard line. They go to Jackson on that toss right that has been working, and he runs into a wall at the 15, and he is going absolutely nowhere.
Prime example of the situation with the numbers. Carver of Atlanta, who are currently tied at the top of the Region 6 4A Division B with Grady. Carver of Atlanta defeated this South Atlanta team 65-14 last week, Kevin.
Well, right now they've got to find a way out of this particular hole here. They managed to go down and get 7 last time, but right now they are against it. 1:30 to play in the third quarter. 2nd down and 10 from their own 15-yard line, and Grady is really pinning their ears back now, Chris, coming after Washington and company. That ball is tipped at the line of scrimmage, and that's a jump ball. And incomplete, just like cats under a tree waiting for a squirrel. They could not gather that in, and it fell to the ground incomplete. 3rd down and 10. And Washington really took a one-step drop there, Chris, and hands just went up on that defensive line and swatted that thing high into the air.
And it looked like it was a Grady player that knocked the ball away from another Grady player that time. It fell right into the nest.
Someone should have called it like a jump ball. And it will be incomplete and stop the clock. So 3rd down and 10 from their own 15. The Hornets looking for something good to happen to get them out of the shadow of their own end zone. And now Washington to the shotgun. Quick snap, and he does want to throw. Straight drop. Now he's going to run for his life inside his own 5. Still breaking tackles, getting blocks. Cocks and fires. And that is almost caught DeAndre Jackson. Just too tall for the short receiver. And it will be 4th down and 10. So Washington did everything he could. Got the football out there and just overthrew the short receiver. And we will face 4th down and 10 on the Hornets sideline. Now Jackson a little gimpy coming up there too, Chris. They can ill afford that.
And Kevin, you've got to think first quarter, maybe even second quarter, Jackson makes that catch because he's got a couple of fresher legs, I should say, but a great effort that time to go up and bring that ball down.
And a great job by Washington to stay alive back there and at least get a pass attempt off. Camacho manages to come back in and get one off, and it takes a lateral bounce for Grady.
Kevin, it's good to see Camacho back in the game because we saw him hobble off the field a little while ago with suffering from cramps, and he looks like he's going to be okay.
Yeah, he jogged off pretty nicely, Chris. Looks like the cramps have been treated very nicely by the staff. Grady goes back to work inside South Atlanta territory at the 40, make that 37-yard line, 58.4 to play in the third.
And if you look at the ankle of number 55 for South Atlanta, we were talking about him earlier, DeQuavius Hodges, it is wrapped. His right ankle is wrapped. There may be a sprain or, a dangerous twist, but he is still in there, giving it his all.
He is a soldier, anchoring that defensive line and the offensive line as the center. Now here's Kevon Taylor directing traffic in the backfield. And he's going to throw. Looking near sideline for Deshaun Benton. And good safety help coming over. And there's that man again, Chris, just trying to be part of this football game any way he can, DeAndre Jackson. But he is not really making any hurries back to the huddle. He is favoring that right leg. Just Warriors all over that South Atlanta football side.
And on the flip side, Grady substituting 2, 3, almost as many as 4 players at a time, keeping their players fresh in the ballgame.
But there's absolutely no quit in that Hornet football team, and that is to be admired here tonight. 2nd and 10 for Taylor. Looking over the middle. The receiver really didn't look for it. Marquavius Henry looked a little late, and Jackson was coming over from the left corner position. He might have had a shot at that. So 3rd down and 10. So the exact opposite of the previous drive for the Gray Knights. They go exclusively through the air this time. 3 plays, the clock fails to run with 45.7 remaining in the third.
Tell you what, Kevin, that previous drive for Grady, they sure were successful running that ball.
3rd and 10 from the South Atlanta 37-yard line. Taylor adjusts the formation on the left side. 2 wideouts to the top. And here's Taylor to throw with plenty of time. Looking down the middle on the slant in between 2 receivers. And that's going to fall incomplete at the 10-yard line. So it'll be 4th down and 10.
Kevin, pretty good defense there, running stride for stride with the running back. With the receiver was number 9, Jarvis Chapman.
Looks like they're going to go ahead and keep Taylor in there, Chris, and go for it on 4th down and 10.
Too long for a field goal. You don't really net a whole lot if you punt the football.
Sometimes we've seen it. We've seen a quarterback quick kick one here, but it looks like he's going to be under center this time, I formation. And they go draw play up the middle, and Todd getting nothing. Hakeem Todd dives over the pile, and it will be Hornet football at their own 36-yard line. So the clock stops on the change of possession. 32-7 to play in the third.
Good defensive play by Gardner that time.
So the Hornets go back on offense. The Wounded Warriors with huge hearts, trying to find a way to make something positive happen. Could be Jamario Washington time, Chris. He's been the one to supply the spark. It's going to be Washington on the QB sweep right, and he runs into a black wall back at the 29-yard line, and there he will go down.
That was great. That was great pursuit by the Grady defense. His blocking kind of fell apart as well. Didn't have anybody to lay a block on the outside.
And Chris, those guys trying to block for him are the same guys that have been trying to get to Kevon Taylor all night long, going both ways, and this is what we talked about, just running out of steam here in the second half. And that will be the final play of the third quarter here from Grady Stadium. It's 38-13. Grady is on top. And I want to remind everybody that PlayOnSports.com is not only your destination for Friday night football action, but it's also the place for the most comprehensive coverage of high school playoff and championship events from all sports from across the country. PlayOnSports.com, high school sports lives here. We'll be back to Grady in just a minute for the fourth quarter. It's 38-13, Grady. We'll be right back. We go to the fourth quarter here at Grady Stadium. The Gray Knights lead at 38-13 over the South Atlanta Hornets, who have refused to go away in this one. Jamario Washington looking downfield, and that is knocked away. His intended receiver double covered downfield, trying to find Jonathan Range, but too much coverage down there deep. It falls incomplete. It'll be second down, make that third down and 16.
More fresh bodies in the game for Grady.
Well, it is senior night here for Grady High School. They have run their seniors out there for 3 quarters. Looks like they're going to get a few more folks into the contest. But they've done what they came to do, Chris. They took care of business in the sub-region, speaking of the Grady Gray Knights. And they continue their march toward November. Here's Washington another time under center, I formation. And he will go to the air. They try that flanker screen outside to Jackson. He gets nailed at the 32, tries to twist free, but only makes it out to about the 33-yard line. It'll be fourth down and about 12.
Good coverage that time by the defense. And Kevin, there's a couple of South Atlanta guys that were probably a little gassed, a little winded, could not even get out there to try to help block on that particular situation.
And they're going to run the punter out there. Camacho does trot back onto the field, and he will kick it away. Amir Smith back deep for the Gray Knights. He'll stand inside his own 40. And Hornets go with a more conservative approach, and that's Camacho's best effort of the night. And he doesn't get the bounce he deserves. That will be down at about the 34-yard line, and Grady will go back to work on offense.
Kevin, if you're Grady, it's simple. Just run the football.
Yep.
Run the football, run the clock. If you score, fine. If you don't score, you got plenty of points on the board.
Game is in hand. Now you take it to the house, avoid getting somebody hurt, and come out of here with the victory and post yourself 4-0 in the region.
As we mentioned, Carver of Atlanta playing Washington this weekend. That's 3-0 in the region versus 2-1. So if Washington was to knock off Carver and Grady wins this game, Grady sits on top with a chance to hold on to first place in Region 6 4AB.
The give is to Todd. He's out to the 45-yard line, very close to a first down. And it looks like they will have it. No, they're going to say just short, just about the nose of a football. And now it looks like the official may want to have a peek at this to see if it is good enough for first down yardage. Chris, we could have a log jam at the top if Washington could somehow find a way past Carver.
Yeah, Washington's kind of sitting in that situation. This is another predicament for somebody, since you have sub-regions within this region. 2 teams from Division A and 2 teams from Division B will be representing Region 6 4A in the state tournament. Now, not only is it important for you to make the tournament, but you want to be one of the top 2 seeds because that gives you a home game. You know, with top 2 seeds at home game, your 3rd seed will go play at the 2nd seed of the region that they're matched up against, and your number 4 seed will go to the opposite bracket and play against the number 1 seed. So, you know, I talked about in the other sub-region, Chambly-Marist, they both play next week, and if they win their games tonight, Chambly's playing Stone Mountain and Marist is playing Lithonia. They will both sit at 4-0 in the region. No other team will be challenging those guys. But if Washington knocks off Carver tonight and Grady wins this game, you've got 1 undefeated team and 2 teams sitting at 3-1.
It was good enough for a first down after the measurement. Grady go back to work. Taylor on the give. They keep it on the ground. And a huge hole off that left side. And Jonathan Golson takes advantage of it down to the 41-yard line. That will momentarily stop the clock to move the chains. And, Chris, we really haven't had the need for Kevon Taylor to take the ball on his own and try to do anything with his legs. He just keeps handing it off to weapon after weapon after weapon. Distributed with his arm as well. He's had a pretty solid night running the offense out there for the Gray Knights.
Very efficient passing the ball as well.
Approaching 10 minutes to play in the football game. 2 wideouts to the near side for Taylor. The big blitz comes, and they meet the ball carrier in the backfield. But still managing to gather some yardage. Big Hakeem Todd dragging tacklers out there for some positive yardage inside the 40 to the 39.
First man to make contact with Todd was Tavarius Thomas, and Thomas kind of got bucked off, so to speak, and he lost his helmet. And spinning was the running back, and then he ended up getting positive yards on a play that should have been for naught.
So instead of a stop for no gain, Chris, it is a gain of 2 just by sheer effort and second effort.
Yeah, when Thomas, his helmet comes off, he has to come off the field for 1 play.
I formation once again behind Taylor. From the Hornet 39, and nothing happening there at all.
Malik Williams
with a great job there. And they're going to lose probably half a yard, maybe a yard there.
And, of course, Thomas comes right back into the ball game.
Deshaun Benton also checking back in.
Only 10 guys.
Sorry, Chris. 8:45 to play in the ball game.
I was going to say, I think there was only. I thought there were only 10 guys, but there were 11. But a substitution, real quickly. Leon Thomas out of the game.
So we'll call it 3rd down and 9. Now Taylor will throw, looking to set up the screen. Sidesteps the pressure. Now he will tuck it under and go. And he's going to be brought down at about the 35-yard line. That'll be 4th down and 4 for the Gray Knights. Sure, good pocket presence there, Chris. It started to collapse around him. He stepped up into space, saw a little bit of room, and decided to tuck it and run.
And looks like Grady is going to go for it on 4th down again. Same situation. Punting pretty much does you nothing. Too far for a field goal. And even if you don't make it, you're running more time off the clock with a very comfortable 25-point lead.
They're using every ounce of clock that they do have at their disposal. Now Taylor in the shotgun. Loosening up that shoulder a little bit, Chris. I don't think he liked the way he fell on that last play. But we're going to see here in just a minute as he fires over the middle. Got a man loose in the end zone.
He's gone.
Is the next stop for Deshaun Benton. Just like that, a 2-step drop. Now we're going to have a flag thrown about the 23-yard line. And I think some composure may have been lost. We'll have to sort out the flag, but Deshaun Benton, really no question, once he got that ball, unsportsmanlike against the Grady Gray Knights.
Is it a post
I think it's going to be.
play?
I think it was called dead ball after the touchdown. We'll sort that out, but I believe that's what I saw the signal to be.
So what are we talking? A little
be
trash talking, maybe a little taunting going on?
Very possibly. And if the touchdown is good, that will make for a very long point after attempt. The points are on the board. We'll have to sort this one out.
They may assess the penalty on the kickoff, on the kick return.
Dead ball, personal foul, unsportsmanlike against Grady. The touchdown is good, and they will assess on the kickoff. Chris, good call by you, partner.
And those are those situations you got to be careful with in a game like this. It's the scoreboard is out of hand, but cooler heads have to prevail. You don't want to do anything or say anything that may cost you time in this game or in future ball games.
And this is the time to keep your composure. You've got the game in hand. You want to keep your composure and your concentration. Kick is up, and the kick is good. This time it's Nick Camano, the sophomore place kicker in. Gets his opportunity on a big night here at Grady, and he makes it 45-13. So we will assess on the kickoff, as you said, Chris, as a result of the unsportsmanlike.
So, Kevin, would you say the numbers that South Atlanta have on the field right now, are they even comparable to what you would see in single A?
Chris, you know, I'm going to have to say no to that. I mean, there are probably 15 able bodies on that sideline with pads on right now. I mean, we remember the days of Buford when Buford started single A. Buford ran more folks out onto the field, at least onto the sideline and the field, than we've seen here tonight for South Atlanta. They are basically the walking wounded. You see some guys over there. Anybody on the sideline right now has got an ice pack or their pads off or a towel over the head because they are just flat gassed as a result.
And sometimes that happens when you have a program that's trying to retool. I talked about last season where Coach Gwynn for South Atlanta had his first 500s or above season in a long time. They went 5-5. I don't think they made the playoffs, but they went 5-5. Kind of similar to what we saw the first game of the season with Lakeside. Lakeside was in a situation where their program was in turmoil. I think they had lost their head coach at the beginning of the previous season. They got a new head coach. They didn't have the numbers coming back that you normally would have in a school that was in a classification of 5A, and we saw them struggle just a little bit.
So Skandari kicks off from his own 25 after the unsportsmanlike penalty. Here's DeAndre Jackson trying to make something happen for his Hornets, and he'll have a good return out to the 45-yard line.
Kevin, does Jackson even come off the field other than timeouts and halftime?
DeAndre Jackson is very close to being my player of the game here, Chris. That guy has shown incredible heart. Probably one of the smaller guys on the football field, but he has been in on defense, defending passes, tackling ball carriers, carrying the ball, going out for passes. I mean, doing everything except refereeing this thing.
And an honorable mention would have to go to the training staff, I guess you would say.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Leon Thomas checks out. That's the first time we've said that over there on the South Atlanta side, someone checking out. for substitution. Now Jamario Washington from the shotgun. Rolling now, looking. He's going to tuck it and run near side across midfield, and he'll be brought down at about the 44-yard line. So Jamario Washington picks up a first down for South Atlanta.
Guess who came over and laid a block that allowed his quarterback to get another 4 yards?
Got to be DeAndre Jackson.
I'm completely from the other side of the field. What a warrior.
He is no other way to describe him, Chris. An absolute warrior out there on the battlefield here tonight. First down and 10, South Atlanta from the 44-yard line. 6:52 and counting in the ball game. Well in hand for Grady. 45-13 is your score, but doesn't begin to tell the story of the heart and the effort shown by South Atlanta. I think that deserves to be part of the headline tomorrow when you talk about Friday night action in the Georgia High School Association tonight. Here's Washington. Plenty of time to throw. Firing over the middle and got a man complete at the 20-yard line. He finds Chris Gardner.
That ball was actually thrown a little short, and Gardner reached over the defender's back and brought that ball back to him. Great concentration by the receiver.
They're going to mark that at the 18-yard line. Chris, that ball did not have a whole lot on it. It seemed to be in the air forever, heading down there for Gardner, but he managed to pull it in. He went up, caught it at its peak, and did a nice job of bringing it in. 6:15 and counting. South Atlanta making a statement here tonight. They're not going to win on the scoreboard, but I think they're going to win in the hearts and minds of a lot of folks watching this game tonight, regardless of which side of the park you're sitting on. Clock goes under 6. Toss to DeAndre Jackson. Puts his head down and gets wrapped up at the 19-yard line.
Great defensive play. Excellent pursuit that time by the Grey Knights defense.
And these guys, Chris, are just doing everything they can to simply get back to the huddle. I mean, you're looking at guys like Tavarius Thomas, Chris Gardner, DeAndre Jackson. I mean, they are just absolutely worn out from this thing, but they continue to dig deep somewhere inside and make it back to that huddle. An awful lot to be proud of here tonight, even though the scoreboard doesn't show it. Washington on the rollout, pressure from behind, manages to get it away. A jump ball into the end zone.
Somebody caught it.
And it's caught. Touchdown, South Atlanta. Up the ladder goes Travion Webb. How about that? A jump ball situation, Chris, and it's just, we can't say it enough. The heart shown by those Hornets on that far sideline is absolutely remarkable.
As tired and as exhausted as this Webb kid is, he went up and he wanted it more.
And Washington looked like he threw that with every last bit of strength left in his body. It had nothing on it. It wobbled. It was a jump ball. And they're going to fake it and go for 2 here. And that's Gardner. And it's going to fall short, so the two-point conversion fails, but a nice effort there. With 4:56 to play, it's 45-19. And I think, Chris, when folks look at the scoreboard tomorrow and see the score sheet at 45-19, if it does in fact stay that way, you'd have to say that this ball game in some ways was close as far as effort and determination are concerned, but really never in doubt as far as the final outcome is concerned.
Yeah, and Grady, like, they will improve to 7-1 and 4-0 in Region 6 4A Division B. And as we mentioned earlier, depending on what happened in that big Carver of Atlanta game versus Washington this weekend, if Carver wins, that sets up a monumental battle for first place in Region 6 4AB next week between Carver and Grady. But if Washington sneaks in there and knocks off Carver, that opens the door for Washington. And with, as I mentioned, with 4 teams going to the state tournament and 2 of them already on the other side of the brackets, Chamblee and Marist, it's a pretty decent team that's not going to make it, because Carver is 7-0 before tonight. Grady is 6-1 before tonight. Washington 6-1 before tonight. Of the 3 teams I just mentioned, only 2 can make the postseason.
Somebody's going to be on the outside looking in after a tremendous effort this season, and that's just a shame to think about.
And Banneker's playing thorough tonight, and mathematically, Banneker's not eliminated as well.
Just under 5 to play in the contest here. Senior night at Grady Stadium. And the Gray Knights will get the football back another time. They lead 45-19. Camacho onside kick, squirrely, just skips across the turf and goes out of bounds.
He didn't get that one big high kick that you always want to give your players a chance to run under the football.
No, I think it's a little moist down there on the turf surface here tonight, Chris, and if that little pigskin gets on its side, it's really not going to start tumbling. It just kind of skids right across the top of the grass, and that will be a procedure penalty against the Hornets.
Speaking of the turf, before the game I was out talking to the coaches and gathering some information, and what a great job they've done on this field. I mean, it's that soft, cushiony turf, and as you mentioned, as it gets cooler and the temperature in the air drops, sort of develops a little bit of a liquid glaze.
You get a little sheen on the top of it, yeah, and that's exactly what happened with that ball there. It never really got that tumble that it needed to take that one big high hop, and Grady will go to work in excellent field position at their own 49. Keep it on the ground another time with Jonathan Golson, and he will get across midfield and pick up about 3. So the goal right now for Grady, just pick up a first down or two, let that last 5 minutes tick away, get out of here, hopefully injury-free, and start checking the scoreboard shows and see where they fall as we head into the November part of our schedule. 2nd down and 7.
And Kevin, oddly enough, I believe next week is the last week of the regular season, and then we will go into the postseason, and who knows what's going to happen then.
It's been a season full of surprises so far in Georgia High School Association. Looking forward to the postseason. And nothing happening there. That's going to be a loss of 1 back to the 50-yard line.
I feel like I keep calling the same numbers over and over tonight. That tackle was made by number 88, Jonathan Range.
And we're going to have a stoppage on the field. And that's going to be a timeout called by the Hornets. 4 minutes and 1 second to play. Hornets use their first timeout of the second half. Just to give these guys one more breath, Chris, for the final stretch in this contest.
Kevin, I'm not sure if I've seen a season where you get to the last couple of weeks of the regular season and so many postseason spots yet to be determined. You know, we've had a couple of games in that big Region 6A up there with Alpharetta and West Forsyth and all those guys. They've got a dogfight up there. You know, a couple of weeks ago, that Lambert team was undefeated, and all of a sudden they lost 2 in a row, put themselves right back in the middle of the pack. Chattahoochee's up there fighting for position. You know, West Forsyth trying to hold on up there. So many regions still with a lot to be determined before we get into the postseason.
We're going to have an encroachment against the Hornets before the snap. So straight out of the timeout, the Hornets commit the cardinal sin of a penalty out of the timeout. That'll cost them 5. So instead of 3rd and 9, it'll be 3rd and 4 for the Gray Knights.
Still 3rd down and 4.
So a big success tonight all around for Grady High School. Senior night, taking care of business, what they needed to do here. You win the ones you're supposed to win. Timing pattern thrown out into the flat, and that's going to be incomplete. Looking for Marlon Character.
Mario Washington out there in coverage that time. Hadn't called his name on defense yet this evening.
And there's a couple of Warriors right there. Chris, we talked about DeAndre Jackson and Jamario Washington just not even going to make their way back to the huddle. That's too far to go. They've got this side of the football field covered, and I think they probably wish that the Grady offensive coordinators would stop throwing the football and let this thing mercifully just tick down, but they continue to go to the air and stop the clock on the incompletions. 4th down and 4. Seems like it's been 4th down a dozen times tonight for Grady. And that's going to be incomplete. Marcavius Henry back in at the quarterback position now. on that last time anyway for Grady. And it'll go over on downs to the Hornets.
Pass intended for number 12. That's Patrick Carroll.
And see, Chris, you look at the wholesale changes still at this point in the football game by Grady. And the South Atlanta guys just kind of march back to the huddle and don't do much of anything other than stay on the football field and try to grab a breather before they go back to work.
Almost like that little vibrating football game we used to play with when we were kids. You just turn the little thing on there. You just kind of move around from side to side.
Electric football.
Showing my age now.
And Chris, getting back to your point of a couple moments ago with how many spots are open and how competitive it is, when you and I first started covering football in Atlanta some 20 years ago, there weren't as many schools. There weren't that many regions. I mean, I don't think quad. I think 5A was the highest back in those days. Was there a 5A?
Yeah, I think it was actually 4A.
4A was the top level for schools and sizes of enrollment. Now we're up to 6A with sub-regions and new schools opening all over the place.
There are schools
it's just
that
amazing.
have 4,000 or 5,000 students.
Yeah.
In them. It's amazing. I know. I was checking out. Will Hammock is a good friend of mine, the sports editor for the Gwinnett Daily Post, and they have listed across the top of their page the logos of all the high schools. There are 21 high schools in Gwinnett County. It's just amazing. And Fulton not far behind DeKalb.
Oh, we have an interception on the near sideline. It could go for 6. One man to beat, and he is going to seal the deal. Malik Shannon, the sophomore, on the interception, and he's going to take it all the way down to the 11-yard line.
We had a flag on. I believe there's a flag down right around the 23, 24-yard line.
And Shannon kind of playing center field out there, Chris, just waiting for something to come his way, and he did get it.
Going to bring a good bit of that return back with a penalty against Grady for an illegal block in the back.
Post-possession foul will be the call. And with 2:45 to play, Grady will go back to work on offense one more time. And Chris, speaking of our wounded warriors and our soldiers out there, DeQuavius Hodges is going to do his best to jog to the sideline to talk to the coach. Absolutely impressive performance by everyone on that South Atlanta side. Truly, truly a remarkable performance. Worth noting.
He taped it up, and he didn't want to stay out any longer than he needed to, and he got back in there, and he just is playing on sheer guts and determination right now.
And he is going to take it to the sideline. So a good return goes for naught on the Shannon interception. And Grady will go to work at the South Atlanta 34. 2:45 to play in the contest.
Henry is your quarterback.
Marcravius Henry is in. And we're seeing a couple folks we haven't seen. Armand Davis, the ball carrier. Looked like he was stopped in the backfield for a big loss, and he manages to gain 7. It'll be 2nd down and 3.
Tackled by DeAndre Jackson.
You could almost close your eyes and be right 70% of the time if you call DeAndre Jackson on the play.
It'll be 2nd down for the Knights. 2nd down and 4. After a gain of 6.
Clock approaches 2 minutes to play in the contest, mercifully for the Hornets of South Atlanta. They have put up a whale of a fight here tonight. Just too much Grady for them here on senior night. A short toss in the backfield. And still fighting for yardage.
Effort.
And brought down inbounds. That will keep the clock running. Looks like Chaz Cooper getting a touch.
Looks like sophomore Colin Bray checks into the ball game, and he'll line up at wide receiver for Grady here on 3rd and short. Where's number 88?
Minute 25 to play, 3rd down and a couple. Henry at quarterback for Grady, letting all that time expire on the play clock. You're going to go toss near side, and a great job on a shoestring tackle.
It's Chris Williams.
Fantastic effort by Williams. And we have officially reached the 62nd point in the football game. And that will send the faithful home from Grady Stadium with a smile on their face on senior night. Not really much in doubt here this evening once we reach the halftime whistle. The big question was, how much fight did South Atlanta have in them? And Chris, I think that has been asked and answered with a resounding a bunch. They really brought a whole bunch of heart here tonight. On 4th and 7, it'll be Armand Davis another time. And it will stop the clock as we change possession.
Looked like it was a Ricardo
Javarillo.
Javarillo in the tackle that time.
So one more snap of the football that will send South Atlanta home. And more than likely, Chris, send Grady on into the playoffs. They refuse to go down with a knee. Gardner to throw, looking downfield, and it's going to be intercepted at the 38-yard line. Looks like Darian Shelton gets into the ball game and gets himself on the stat sheet. So now it looks like we'll have a final kneel down with 16.6 to play.
That's looking pretty good for Grady now that they're going to be 4-0 in the region, regardless of what happens between them and Carver next week. They should be sitting in a pretty good position. And as I said, on the top half of the region, Chamblee and Marist both 3-0 prior to their games tonight. And the next closest team has a record of 1-2. So Chamblee and Marist will be the two teams representing the top half of the region in the state playoffs.
And there is your kneel down by Henry, and that will be your ball game. Final seconds tick off, and South Atlanta, after a valiant effort, falls to Grady by the score of 45-19 here on senior night. So we'll have handshakes at midfield as the horn sounds. That will do it. 45-19, your final from Grady Stadium. And remember, football fans, Play On Sports is on Facebook and Twitter 24/7, giving you news and information and links to great highlights, and you can follow us all the time on both Facebook and Twitter, whatever your choice may be. You can also access thousands of live and on-demand games on YouTube at youtube.com/PlayOnNetwork and keep up with all the high school action every week. From your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. We'll be back to wrap this one up in just a moment from Grady Stadium, where Grady has taken care of business, 45-19. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Grady Stadium, where the final gun has sounded. 45-19. Grady takes care of South Atlanta. Kevin Beck with Chris King, Jason and Kenny ready to wrap this one up. And partner, player of the game time has got to be Kevon Taylor from Grady. So many weapons, but he orchestrated it very well, distributed the football, didn't make any mistakes, had a touchdown on the night, a couple of nice passes, ran the football, stayed out of trouble. Didn't hurt his team at all, and I think a very, very nice game managed by Kevon Taylor, the senior here on senior night.
Did a good job of recognizing the loose coverage and the open openness of the middle of the secondary, as we saw a lot of completed slant patterns. And I agree that Kevon Taylor should be our player of the game.
And for the honorable mention of the year so far in my book, it's got to be DeAndre Jackson from South Atlanta with an absolutely monumental effort, showing heart, grit, and determination, refusing to die in on just about every play of the football game. And I think the young man deserves as many accolades as someone could heap on him for what we saw from him tonight.
I don't think he came out of the ball game. And it's not that guys like Gardner, Chris Gardner, Chris Williams, our buddy DeQuavius Hodges, he played with.
He played hurt for probably three-quarters of the football game.
Yep. More than likely a sprained ankle. We could give a lot of honorable players of the game, but I believe that DeAndre Jackson should be, if nothing else, mentioned as one of the warriors in this team that would not quit. They fought, and as I mentioned before, one of the things that the coach was concerned about, Coach Millen told me as we were talking over rosters, he said the thing that worries him about this South Atlanta team is they won't quit. And they did not quit. They didn't have enough for Grady tonight, but Grady knows when they leave the stadium tonight that they were in a football game.
They did not show 1 ounce of quit at any point in this football game. They dug deep, did what they had to do, and made a fight of it. And they were over in the corner right now taking a knee, having a prayer. And I'll tell you what, that is one impressive football team. And I, for one, have been doing this a long time, Chris, as you have, and I have rarely seen effort and heart from a team in a football game that like we saw here tonight from South Atlanta. So Hornet fans out there, you've got an awful lot to be proud of. The scoreboard didn't show it, but everyone out there knows, including the folks here at Grady and that Grady football team, that they played an opponent tonight that was not going to back down, and they were full of heart and determination. So, partner, I'll give you the final 30 seconds on this one.
Yeah, congratulations to Grady. They improved to 7-1 and 4-0 in Region 6 4A Division B. And regardless of what happens with Carver tonight, Grady will be in a situation to control their own destiny. If they can beat Carver next weekend, they will be on top of Region 6 4A Division B, and they should clinch one of the top 2 seeds. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there will be no worse than second. It'll be the top team in Division B, the top team in Division A, whoever has the best record, and then 3 and 4. So Chambly Marist going to be fighting over there in Division A. Over here, Carver, Grady, and Washington, depending on what happened in that Washington-Carver game. Next week, a huge, huge week, not only for this region, but for many regions across the state, Kevin, as we finally decide and we finally realize who's going to be playing postseason football.
So that will do it for October in the 2012 season as we wrap it up here from Grady Stadium. Grady taking care of South Atlanta. So for my partner, Chris King, our cameraman, Kenny, our producer, Jason, this is Kevin Beck, hoping you'll join us next time on PlayOnSports.com as we bring you the best Friday night action anywhere in Georgia right here on PlayOnSports.com. So until next week, Kevin Beck saying so long, everyone.
Fourth and 10 from the 41-yard line for St. Augustine. Kennedy dropping back to pass. Looking left, firing, incomplete, intended for Noland. No penalty flags on the field. Mar Vista will take over on